Did you say Brian is not going to be here?
He's not. His father was on his deathbed.
Okay, then you and I are going to do
I just remember stuff.
I heard her. She's there.
We will call this meeting to order. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand. We will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will be having a presentation later this meeting on our ROTC program, and as a result, that is why we just had the presentation of the colors by a joint group of cadets from both ROTC cadets from both Brian McMahon and Norwalk High School. We will now proceed with Spotlight, which is to recognize the 4 schools of distinction that have been so honored by the state of Connecticut, 4 schools of Norwalk Public Schools. And I'll turn this over to the superintendent to review this. We previously only had 1 school of distinction. There are only 160 or so in the state, so it's quite an honor.
So we're very pleased tonight to recognize 4 2019 schools of distinction. And those schools are represented tonight by their principal, a member of the faculty, and at least 1 parent representative. So I'm going to say a few words. Mr. Barbas is going to assist me with the plaques. But when we introduce you, we would like you to come up, receive the congratulations of the board, get your plaque, and then we understand that each school has a representative that has been appointed to say a few words about their achievement, how they did it, and just some words about the progress, growth, and achievement of the school. As Mr. Barber said, this is a rare circumstance for a city school system to have 4 schools of distinction. When our state accountability plan was initiated 3 years ago, we had none. And last year we had 1, the Rotc School, our first, and this year we have 4. And to be a school of distinction, the state awards this criteria for one of 2 reasons: either extremely high student achievement in reading or math, or extremely high growth of students in reading or math. And in the case where a school has a majority of high-need students, this takes on an even greater dimension. So we're very pleased tonight to start by recognizing Tracy Elementary School. Tracy, Tracy was actually received a double recognition. They are a school of distinction for high performance and high growth in both English language arts, reading, and math for all students. So distinction for reading, distinction for math, distinction for all students, distinction for high need students. I guess that's a quadruple
Grand slam.
And if that were not enough, as a result of that achievement, Tracy moved this year into Category 1 ranking of schools in Connecticut. And also became the state's first state-certified school of character. So quite a year for Tracy's school. Ms. Raggett.
So first I'd like to say thank you very much for this honor and for taking the time to recognize the work that we've done. I'm going to let my parent actually do the few minutes of speech, but I would like to say that, you know, I have a team that just is not willing to quit, that they're willing to work hard and that they're also willing to change their practices, and I would attribute our success to being willing to take a look at ourselves as the adults who are responsible for teaching children and for interacting with students, and reflecting with that and really being deliberate and wanting to change our own practice to make the difference for our kids and building relationships. So I'm going to turn it over to Katrinka De Leon, my parent representative.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Speaking on behalf of the parents of Tracy, we are honored to be here to receive this recognition for our results. Our principal had a vision, and her vision was, to improve Tracy's school and to provide an education for all students. She needed to achieve this vision, and she indicated to us through our help of our community, and the community involved the faculty, the students, parents alike. One thing about Teresa that empowered us all is that she has the ability to look at issues that people see as concerns and consider it as solution and look for solutions. Things that people see as demographics, she sees as children. So having said that, there's two other people that we'd like to individually recognize, and one of those people is John Centerville, our math and science coach. The other one is Mrs. Montero. She's in our administration. And finally, we just want to say, as a parent community, that we deeply care about Tracy. And for us, we've invested a lot of time and passion to ensuring that Tracy succeeds. And receiving this acknowledgement is certainly an indication that we have left our print at Tracy. Thank you.
We do have the Certificate of Excellence to award you. You came by too quickly. So there you go. Congratulations.
Well done.
Here.
The next school being honored tonight is Kendall Elementary School. And Miss Baker, before you come up, I just want to say a few words about this. This is quite a significant milestone for the district as well. Kendall, historically, throughout the last decade or so of state testing, was our lowest performing elementary school. The gains that they made this year in reading, it was a 19-point gain. And that was the highest in our district, and it also is the highest that we know of any elementary school in the state of Connecticut. So this has been a turnaround story, ably led. by a wonderful principal and committed parents and a great staff that has done things and done things differently to create a better education environment for the students of Tracy, and we congratulate you.
I just want to ask that, first of all, everyone from Kendall, if you could please stand up. And I am certainly the proud principal of Kendall Elementary School, where college and career begins. And we all believe that every child who enters our building is not defined by their challenges. They're not defined by their circumstances or their demographics or their zip code. They're defined by their potential and the innovation that all of them have. And I'm excited to be a part of a team of a community. I came into a community, and I am excited to move to the next level as a team. I'm going to ask that my parent representative, Michelle Robinson, come up, who is our current PTA chair, and she was the SGC co-chair for last school year. If you can come up, Mrs. Robinson, and also Ms. Franco, if you would come and stand and just stand as a representative of the amazing staff and the diversity that is at Kendall. And I just thank you, team. This is just the beginning. And one of the first things that I said when the accountability scores came out is, let's celebrate, but let's call our colleagues at Tracy and ask them what they're doing, because we're moving to the next level. So we just celebrate you, and we are excited for all of our children. Jefferson, we're waiting.
So I just wanted to say a little something. I had to write it, and I'm going to attempt not to get upset, because this is my last year at Kendall. So I have twins in 5th grade, and when I first came to Kendall, well, those years back, just like Dr. Adamowski said, Kendall was not the school that you wanted your kids to go to. And I was like many other parents, and I didn't want to. I started off my tenure there with going in and talking to Mr. Dietrich about keeping my kids in the same class. I was ready to fight tooth and nail, and I walked in and he said, you know your children, we're keeping them together. And I went, wow, this is home, and it made me feel comfortable. I started off on governance council because I was not going to be on the PTA. 2 years later, Tony talked me into taking on the PTA and then left me. But being one of the head parents on the governance council, we were able to interview some principals. We had some doozies, I'm sure a few of us that were there could say. And then we found Mrs. Baker, and we knew that we had the principal that we needed. And since she came in, she has given our teachers the ability to do what they need to do. Like loosen the reins a little bit. We have wonderful staff. Our teachers are incredible. It starts from the front office all the way down to our custodial staff. We have just an incredible staff that I'm going to be so sad to leave, but I won't. They'll see me. I have nieces that will be there, so I'll be around for a while longer to see what they do. And thank you.
Thank you again.
The next recognition tonight for a school of distinction for high growth in reading for high needs students goes to the Jefferson Elementary School. Yeah, congratulations.
company, and I'm happy to be here with our colleagues who have done so well, and I'm so pleased for them. I'm the principal of Jefferson School. I just want to point out we do have some students, parents, and teachers who are here. Can I have those members of the Jefferson community stand up? So this honor comes just in company and just in keeping with our achievements in the Invention Convention and also in the STEM Fair. We were very pleased to see our 3rd through 5th grade students who took the prize in the STEM Fair the other day. So lots of wonderful things are happening here. I'm going to speak on behalf of the parents and the community and say that this is attests to very strong focus. I think that we pride ourselves on excellence and effort and energy, and I see this in every grade level team. I see this with our parents who are gaining more and more traction with their interests in defining Jefferson. Jefferson is a school that is evolving. It is a science magnet that is sunsetting, and that we are evolving into a new Jefferson. We're very excited. We're very proud. This is a group of parents that are excited about a facilities change that's on the horizon, and they deserve it. The focus for closing the ELA achievement gap, and I'm thanking Ms. Filardo because she helps us with that data, is also about the details of focus. And I know every school in this town is focused on the data that will show the gains. And we have interventions and concentrated efforts. I want to also point out, and this goes to our special education team and our ELL team, our English language arts team, our English language learners team, focused on creating classrooms where level 3 students could have some concentration, and those students showed the greatest gains. And then finally, I also want to thank the district for providing us an opportunity to work with the new leaders. We have some members who are with us who are on the new leaders, and that represents a group of teachers who are focused on finding particular goal areas. Math, in language arts, in developing parental understanding, awareness, and involvement, and creating a climate that is able to sustain these growth. We're not giving up here. We're going after the next and the next distinctions. And again, thanks to my colleagues and thank you to all. Thank you. To stand up. I want these little guys to stand up nice and tall and to have them carry the singing tomorrow, okay? Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Last but not least, I mentioned that 2 years ago we had our first school of distinction, the Rotc School. And very pleased that Rotc has been able to maintain its status as a school of distinction and broaden it. This year, Rotc is recognized as a state school of distinction for high growth in ELA and math for all students and for high needs students. Rotc Elementary School. Mr. Martinez.
Great job.
Congratulations.
I'd like my Rotc family to come down here, please. Teachers, Rob, come on down. Parents, come on, don't be shy. I have with me tonight my administrative colleague. He sometimes calls himself my assistant, but he's not. He's my colleague. That's Rob Pennington. I have two of our teachers. We have Ms. Denise Burrell, who's one of our 5th grade teachers, and we have Ms. Alex Kemeny, who has been with us for over 3 decades and who's retiring this year. And we have Kimmy Decline, who is co-president of our PTA, and we have Allie Griffin, who is the other co-president, and we have Allie's daughter, Ellie, who's a 1st grade student at Rotc School. We're happy to be named a school of distinction. It would have been difficult to give up that title, by the way. Rob and I talked about that. We had these really nice banners we had put on the sides of our doors, and we didn't want to have to take them down. So now we don't. But we're really happy about it because it's a public affirmation for what we know to be true of our school. It is a good place for students to learn. And there are many people who deserve credit for that. We have a very talented faculty at our school. I walk into classes each and every day, and I'm amazed at what I see every single day. Rob does the same thing, informal observations all the time. We know the quality of instruction. But in addition to that, we also have a very supportive environment in the school. Rob and I have a conversation probably a couple of times a week about the narrative for our school. What is it that defines our school? And what is most important to us in that definition is that we have to be a really good school for all of our kids. So in that school of distinction, the last thing that you mentioned was we received that recognition because of what we did with high-need students. Those students who really need the support, we were able to provide that. I want to mention something that the talent office did today. I don't think they realized the importance of what they did. The talent office gave us a gesture of their congratulations, their appreciation for what every single staff member in our school and all of the other schools did, regardless of the job that the person has. It went to cafeteria workers, it went to custodians, it went to our security guard, it went to everybody. Everybody. I had one person who was near tears to be recognized, to be appreciated. And the reason that all of those people deserved appreciation and congratulations is that all of them contribute to the environment we have in our school. Our students feel safe, they feel that we care about them, and that's critically important to us. Rob and I certainly don't do that by ourselves. The faculty doesn't do that alone. It's taken with the faculty, with the para-educators in the school, and everybody else who works there. We're a great family. We have a sense of ownership of and support by our Rowayton, greater Rowayton community. We greatly appreciate what they do for us, and we work really, really hard for our kids. Thank you.
It is really great. It's an honor for all of us who are involved in the school system to have 4 schools of distinction. And I thank all of you for leading the way and providing an example of what is possible, what can be done. Those possibilities are unlimited. And we look forward to other schools walking in your footsteps as the achievement of our children throughout the district is elevated. I would be remiss if I did not place a brief addendum onto the spotlight tonight as a result of events that have occurred over the weekend, both at the STEM Expo and at the Mohegan Sun Arena for the girls' state basketball championship. I just want to acknowledge and read our STEM teams who won at the Expo. There is a category or competition for grades K through 2, and that was won by Miss Michelle Suda's class at Marvin School, her 2nd grade class. The students were Johnny Mavicini, Brennan Figueroa, Yonis Tanze, Marlena Tomaselli, and Gianna Capasso. Their unit was Materials Matter, and the challenge was to build the 4th Little Pig's house with no bricks and have it withstand whatever anyone could blow wind on it. So congratulations to them. In the grades 3 through 5 category, Mr. Brody alluded to this earlier, Miss Amy Luciana's class of Jefferson School won that division. The unit was Antarctic Survival, and the challenge was to create a device to desalinate and store water. So congratulations to Jefferson School. Reading the names of our students is always an experience of visiting the United Nations, right? Because we have such diversity. The 6th grade division was won by the class of Mr. Kenneth Wood, science teacher at Rotc Middle School, and the unit was the penguin habitat, and the challenge was to design and construct a prototype dwelling for a penguin habitat. Students were Stella Schweitzer, Thomas Manna, Ryan Turnbull, and Kaylin Kahuni. 7th grade division was also won by Rotc Middle School science teacher Mr. Laurie Given. Students were Ella Dino, Rosie Strickland, Raisa Youssef, and Roshini Youssef. And the unit was entitled Closed Recreation Area. The challenge was to design and construct a terrarium with a managed and controlled climate. And so congratulations to the 7th grade. Last but not least, the 8th grade STEM Expo Challenge was won by the class of Mr. Ryan Mitchell at West Rocks Middle School. Students were Jantula Amina, Daniela Morin, and Janelle Ruiz. The unit was the science of jetpacks, and the challenge was to design and construct a jetpack suit to counter Newton's third law, the law of gravity, to protect a human that would protect a human when landing in space or on Earth. And congratulations to West Rocks. Our Norwalk High School girls basketball team.
Yeah.
Defeated New London 55-53 in the Class LL Championship at the Mohegan Sun Arena on Saturday. For those of you that were at the game, you know what a, how do I describe this, what a thriller it was that was resolved in the last minute of the game in the favor of the Lady Bears, who played their all and gave it their all. If there was ever a team, there was ever a team that won on the basis of determination, effort, and heart, this was the team. They were coached by Mr. Richard Fuller. The assistant coaches were Evan Kelly and Carrie Fitzgerald, and the team managers Ernest Britt and Chris Smalls. The 13 students comprising the Lady Bears Championship basketball team are Ashley Wilson, Camilla Martinez, Carson Langhorn, Anajaya Morgan, Sana Boyd, Jakara Murray Leach, Belinda Hunt, Jessica Parker, Rose Kennerly, Grace Potacheri, Never Renee, Lamia Ashley, and Serenity Mayhew. Congratulations, ladies. So there are a number of things that have been planned for these students by the athletic department, working in conjunction with the principal and the district coaches. There are a number of things. The first will occur on April 7th from 4 to 7 at Norwalk High School, where there will be a family day, family night, food, entertainment, food trucks, celebration for the families involved. The district is purchasing championship rings for the ladies on the team. I understand the fitting is next week, and after a 6-week period for the rings to be received, there will be a athletic banquet held in May at a date to be determined at the Norwalk Inn. And then following that, this will be our first experience at this, but following that, the district will be acquiring and building a float for the Memorial Day Parade. And the marching band of Norwalk High School is going to lead the float, head of the float in the parade. And on the float will be our championship lady basketball players. And they will be joined by Brian McMahon Sr., Justin Ford, who is ranked #1 in the country in the triple jump, Kevin Bradley, who is first place state champion in the diving champion of the McMahon Norwalk. This is a joint team between the two schools' diving team, and Norwalk senior and Bears wrestling captain Sam White, who has earned the title of state wrestling champion in the 120-pound weight division. The district is assisting the school in some of the unusual expenses that were not anticipated in recognizing this team, and Mayor Rilling has graciously donated $500 from his Mayor's Ball charitable fund toward this purpose as well, and we thank you for that. So, lots to recognize, and I thank everyone tonight who has been here for this or has been a part of it, and who has contributed in large or small ways to these great achievements and opportunities for our students. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Unfortunately, tonight we're missing several of our board members due to work conflicts, family emergencies, and the like. So I will handle public comments. There's a list which will be given to me. Each speaker needs to introduce themselves and give their address. They're allowed 3 minutes to speak. I'll put my hand up after 2.5. And you know, we have a long meeting, so please keep your comments within 3 minutes. Obviously, those of you who don't want to listen to public comments or after public comments are free to depart. We do have quite a lengthy agenda tonight. So I will let the room clear out, and while we're waiting, our first public speaker will be Jeff Spar, followed by Justin Case. Okay, Mr. Spar.
Do I just leave this computer here?
Yeah, unless it's in your way.
You could put it down. Just put it down, Jeff. There you go. Oh, sorry.
Unbreak it, close it.
Got it.
It's just Norwalk Public School property.
All right, say when.
Please introduce yourself, and we'll start the timer.
Sorry about that. My name is Jeffrey Spar. I live at 32 Stony Brook Road. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Norwalk. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Education for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak on the issue of Autism Awareness Day and Autism Awareness Month. As a side comment, I'd like to personally thank all the members of the board for all their hard work. Many times it's said that a job like yours is a thankless job. That's never been so true as it is now, but I thank you personally. I want to say to you that the month of April is Autism Awareness Month. April 2nd is Autism Awareness Day. It's an international celebration, if you will, or recognition day. The City of Norwalk also has a proclamation from the mayor, and the Board of Education is going to issue a proclamation tonight, I guess, about autism awareness. On April 2nd, we're having an event on the town green at 6 o'clock. The fire department will be there. The police department will be there. Traditionally, they have events where you light up something, a noteworthy landmark within a town or a city. Blue, we're going to light up the gazebo on the town green blue. So in Norwalk, the green will be blue on October 2nd. The first taxing district has been gracious to help us with that. So we're doing all of that. I want to let you know that I will not be here when you get to item number 10, which is the autism resolution, because I have to be home to my son, who is right now playing Fortnite, I take it, without even seeing him. Anyhow, but autism is something that's very serious. I'm not going to go into all the details. It affects a lot of people. It affects your ability to get a job. It affects your ability to stay in school. There's an increased amount of bullying. There's an increased amount of social stigmatization. It's tough to get, like I said, to get a job afterwards. So, you know, you say to yourself, what's this awareness? What are we going to have? Is it just like some kind of, I don't want to have this just to be some kind of throwaway, yeah, okay, it's an awareness. And I appreciate the fact that Dr. Adamowski has always been supportive, and Yvette Gurevich has always been supportive too, of putting things on the web to make the resources available. I was touched by the fact that when you listen to all these schools with distinction, one of the things that they all said was they were able to reach this lofty goal by being able to address the special needs and challenges of their most compromised students. If you notice, every single one of them said that they did that, whether it be an ELL situation, whether it be special needs, etc. And I would say to you that a rising tide floats all boats. So to the extent that you can meet the needs of the most needy, you're going to be able to help all of those, and you're going to have more schools that are going to be schools of distinction. So I salute the Board of Education for passing this resolution, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Spar, and we will be approving April as Autism Awareness Recognition. Our next speaker is Justin Case.
Hi. Justin Case is not my real name, but I feel compelled. You know, so many awards for distinction, and my two sons have been at the tops of their class. Really, I think they are doing an excellent job in Norwalk. I cannot, and my sons have gotten scholarships, all types of things. But what I'm here to do today, you know, is not an easy task, and I've changed my mind while sitting here. I had a whole thing prepared, but what I want to say, I think has to be said, because I am witnessing this, you know, discrimination pretty much everywhere I go. And I have a website collecting data. I collect cassettes, recordings, I do interviews. These cassettes, I have 65 of these. I have hundreds of these. I have 50 cassette recordings full. I have 4 of these. They hold 10,000 hours. I've been interviewing people. It's not a pretty task. But what I'm here to say, and I'm trying to say it as fast as possible, I think I'm here to defend, you know, Michael Lyons and Mike Barbas, who I don't even know, okay? What I can tell you is, on this recording, number 41, which is 2 hours long, I go to the Norwalk the Norwalk Housing Authority meetings. I'm the only person in the whole town. I record them. What is being said, you know, is atrocious. I record the meetings. I have them. You can listen to them. You know, I was going to play a 3-minute soundbite, a 22-minute. You can't do it. Basically, what I have to say is, if you listen to recording 41, A specialist came from Massachusetts to describe how the Housing Authority cannot pay Section 8 for sexual predators. There's a sexual predator in the housing department, in a housing apartment, which you guys are paying. You know, they're not allowed there for 10 years, and then plus another 10 years. So, and I have a recording of Brenda Penn-Williams basically strenuously objecting numerous times to the fact that an 18-year-old boy sleeping with a 12-year-old girl or a 13-year-old girl should not lose their Section 8. I strenuously object. I mean, it's, you know, wait a minute, I know you don't agree with me, but I object. I say, wow, you know, this is statutory rape. Hello? I had two friends who were going to come. I don't see them. But, you know, I was going to ask Ernie Dumas if his daughter, at age 13, if he had a daughter, I don't even know, was raped by an 18-year-old male, if it was a white male, what would have happened? You know, basically World War III. Okay? Can I continue, or is it, you can shut me down? That's 3 minutes?
10 seconds.
You're up.
Oh, well, I just want to say, I could speak for 5 hours,
The speaker has the floor.
and I appreciate the time and effort. I didn't even touch on the issues that I hoped to raise, but I think you understand that it's a serious topic. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Barbara Prophet.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Prophet. I reside at Strawberry Hill, Norwalk. This is my second time speaking to you. I complain about my 10-year-old daughter who had fresh bruises on her arms after being restrained and fainted, where she had been transported to Norwalk Hospital when she was at High Roads. I could not get anyone to help me with my daughter's abuse. I went to Joe Russo, and he turned blind eye to the matter, so I contacted the NAACP. After my complaint, my daughter was kicked out and received 2 hours of education on a daily basis. It took almost a year before my daughter was allowed to enroll in school. If the Norwalk Police and the DCF conduct an investigation, they never contacted me. I would like to see the report. I just want to know, if High Roads was so great, why aren't they at Norwalk High School? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joe Janderko.
Good evening, Joe Janderko, 9 Mott Avenue. Tonight I just speak to you with 2 comments and 2 more along the lines of congratulations. I just wanted to take a moment to really formally recognize the work and the efforts of our students and our faculty members and our administrators for the 4 schools of distinction, Tracy, Kendall, Jefferson, and Rowayton. It was commented by all the schools that a true sense of community and, more importantly, cooperation helped them to achieve their lofty goals. So I think, again, just from the NFT's perspective, it is very, very positive to have them represent us throughout the city of Norwalk. And also, I wanted to just take another short moment to publicly recognize and thank the students, the teachers, and various other staff members for a job well done at this weekend's Past STEM Fair. I know Dr. Adamowski had touched upon this as well. The projects and presentations created by our students across all grade levels were truly amazing. Mr. Such deserves a huge amount of thanks for coordinating such a huge effort at Brian McMahon leading up to the event. Also, Dr. Myers and Ms. Henkel for their leadership and support throughout the whole process for the teachers. And I just want to take a moment to thank the various board members who were in attendance. If I missed anyone, I do apologize, but she's not here tonight, but Ms. Myers was there, and Ms. Lemieux, who's also not here today, and the mayor for his kind remarks at the beginning of the day. It was really a wonderful day, put together by a lot of work behind the scenes. I can only hope it gets better, and I think once we cure up some of the things that we talked about at curriculum, I think it'll be even better things next year. So thank you, and thank you to Dr. Myers, and there you are. And, you know, wonderful job, and the teachers feel really supported over the last couple months with their hard work and getting our arms around NGSS. So thank you.
Our next speaker, it looks like, is Diane Peters.
Well, my name is Diane Peters, and I live at 84 Taylor Avenue. I'm a lifelong resident of Norwalk, and I just want to say thank you so much for recognizing my nephew. I really came here to say different, but after you made that speech and you recognized all the girls, and I can honestly tell you, in the history of Norwalk, this is the first time we've had a championship team where their GPA is an average of 3.4. So much more than you could ever imagine, and I really do appreciate you, Mayor Riley, for doing what you're doing for these kids, because it really means a lot to them. And I'm just so proud, and I know my brother Rick is smiling down, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think our last speaker might be Joanna Cooper.
Joanna Cooper, Shadow Lane. I just am here to say thank you to the superintendent, the Board of Ed, and particularly the two Mikes for your continued focus on kids, for your goal from the outset of, and consistently holding the goal of wanting to achieve the closing of the achievement gap, for your pushing for accountability, for your hiring minorities, for you fixing a broken system or non-existent systems that were not in place in the system, for making special ed a focus and all the tremendous progress there, for giving schools autonomy, for the community outreach you've done, for your data-driven decisions, for not giving in to union demands, which is, I find, mostly adult-centered, but I was really pleased tonight, Joe, to hear you say thank you. I don't ever really hear you say that. So very happy to hear that. In particular, Mike, the countless hours that you've spent on the South Norwalk schools and all of the volunteer work that you do. It is tremendous, and it's been going on for years. And I think that your accomplishments and the record speaks for itself, and I'm eternally grateful. I haven't seen this district move this far in the 20 years that I've been watching, and you're doing an outstanding job. Keep it up. And I would like to say to Brenda Penn-Williams, you've been given a gift to lead the Norwalk NAACP. It is a worthy mission that I'd like to get behind, and I have been behind. I am in support of equal opportunity, but I find your approach divisive, adult-centered, and bullying. And I think you'd do much better off if you could stop playing politics and fostering division. And I would say the same of our mayor. You lost my respect with Fix It First. And you have been non-existent for a lot of Board of Ed meetings, and you show up for this, and I'm not pleased that I see what you're doing is playing politics, and you should support our superintendent more and our board, because they work really hard and they're doing an excellent job. And to the press, I hope that you will give more weight to the hard work that they're doing and not the drama of some of the things that have gone on with abrasive personalities over the years. So I just wanted to thank you again. I don't think you hear it enough how much we appreciate, or people appreciate, the work you do on behalf of our students and how much our district has come forward. And I just really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for all the public comments.
Excuse me, I put my name on.
I-
Maybe I put it on the wrong page.
I don't know. It's not here. I went through all the names. Please feel free.
Fuller, I put on there.
It's not on here.
But go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Fuller. It's really not that much, but I had to put it on different papers. I live in Norwalk. I've been a resident of Norwalk for over 50 years, and thank you, Dr. Adamowski. My sister-in-law said it all. We all appreciate what you said about the team. I'm coming from a different perspective. So I guess you all know I'm here for the Lady Bears. I'm here this evening to speak about an outstanding group of young ladies and the people who mentored and coached them through a phenomenal basketball season this year, culminating with the Connecticut State Class L Championship at Mohegan Sun on Saturday. I'm not even sure if some of the Board of Ed members are even aware that before Saturday, they won their division title. They went on to win the FCAC title, and then they went to Mohegan Sun and took the states. That's quite an achievement for these young ladies. I'm excited about this honor for many reasons. And I know that the Board of Ed looks at numbers. You're looking at closing the achievement gap, our math and our science and our reading numbers. I know because I personally work at a school of distinction, Jefferson School. And I know that every day that the staff goes to Jefferson with one thing in mind. We go there to make sure that every student excels. And the teachers do the best they can to make sure that the children excel. But this evening, my story is about a group of scholar athletes. So here's the number. The average GPA of that team is 3.4. And also, they had a 28-0 perfect record this season. And all three of our seniors are college-bound. And two of them are college-bound not because they play basketball, but because of their grades. And they were, they were supported, coached, and mentored by a coaching staff that is made up of all Norwalk Public School graduates. These are graduates that went away to college, but thought it not robbery to come back to Norwalk and give back to the young people of Norwalk what had been instilled in them through their journey through the Norwalk Public Schools. Each one, teach one. So now I'm gonna take a little liberty here. Coach Richard Fuller Jr. graduated from Brian McMahon High School, went to college, came back, and has been an English teacher in the Norwalk school system for 24 years, along with coaching. Coach Evan Kelly was a Norwalk High School and Sacred Heart University outstanding basketball player. He played 1 year in Europe, professional ball in Europe, and is now back coaching at Norwalk High, his alma mater, ready to go back to get his master's degree and subbing for the Norwalk public school system. Coach Carrie Fitzgerald also graduated from Norwalk High School, and she is a preschool teacher, get the little ones to come on up, and she's the JV coach. And I would like to publicly thank the administration and the entire staff of Norwalk High School for your support of our team this year. And to the families of the Lady Bears, thank you for not only working, volunteering, baking, cooking, and donating to the concession stand so that our girls were able to have some support. Thank you, Mayor Rilling. I have to say thank you to him, because with your busy schedule, you still found time to check in, to check to see what the Lady Bears were doing, checked in with me on Saturday and said, don't call me until they won. Don't call me back until they won. I want to thank Dr. Adamowski, Dr. Costanzo, and Brenda Wilcox-Williams for making the trip on Saturday. There may have been others, but those were the ones that I spoke with. And I hope it was worth it for you. And to my Lady Bears, one thing, I would like to just leave 2 quotes with you. One from one of my personal heroes, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And our girls did it on Saturday. And the other one is from a poet, County Cullen. I'm not reading the whole poem, I'm only reading the last stanza, which says, "Be what you can be. Learn what you can learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow, then your nation will be what you want it to be." Thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes public comments. We'll now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first 2 items on the superintendent's report were requested by the board. The first was the update on the former Briggs students at Brian McMahon High School. And Mr. Hurwitz is here with us tonight for that. You recall there was a comparable report on the of the students from Briggs at Norwalk High School earlier in the year, and we had a difficulty scheduling this, but we're doing it tonight. So, and then the second item is the junior ROTC update, also requested by the board, and we have our 2 distinguished officers as well as a number of cadets with us tonight for that purpose. So I'm going to turn this to Ralph Valenzizi. He will give you a statistical profile similar to the last time, and then we'll hear from Mr. Hurwitz as well.
Great. Well, good evening, board. Everybody's doing well. It's great to hear all this great news. So really what I wanted to do is just take a really brief moment to talk a little bit about specifically one of the questions that you had, which were the students that came from MPA, you know, kind of where are they now? And what I was able to do was aggregate some data together. Once again, the number is small, so I've actually put them in a way that hopefully
Ralph?
Can't hear it? Okay. A little better? Okay. What I've been able to do is actually aggregate the data into a way that actually keeps the students' personal identification out of that, so with such a small group. But overall, at Brian McMahon, we've had 17 students that came over from, that were coming over from Norwalk Pathways Academy. 16, and then 1 came over later in the year that had transferred in from, that was originally at Norwalk High. Out of those students, 7 are currently at Brian McMahon right now, 5 are on track with their graduation requirements. So they're not all seniors, but they're all on track for graduation at whatever point they're in. 6 have either moved out of town, have either transferred, or in some cases suspended. And 4 have gone on to programs such as Adult Ed or Job Corps. The GPA, what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of an example or snippet. This is the average GPA of those 7 students that are there when they came in 2017-18. Their average GPA was 1.6. It's grown slightly, but you need to remember that the only scores that have been added to this are semester grades that have been completed in the first semester. So taking a look at the next statistic, these students are on track to achieve right now 42 cumulative credits. So that averages out to be about 6 credits per student. So students are moving, they're on track. We're actually seeing gains with our students in general. So with that, what I wanted to do was put this out there first, and then turn this over to Mr. Hurwitz and his team and the students and his teachers to talk more about the program and what they've been able to do this year with iLab, because I think that's actually what you're probably more interested in. So, yeah.
It's, if I see this correctly, 6 moved, transferred, or suspended. To me, that means you really don't know what happened?
No, well, so we do know that some have moved out of state or out of town. Some have transferred, meaning some have actually transferred to Norwalk High, And the suspensions, we do know too. I just don't want to put the numbers up because it could.
Okay, when I read moved, that means there is some kind of,
They've actually
do we
left-
make the assumption that they are in another school, or we have no evidence of that?
They've unregistered with us, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So our assumption is that they moved out of town.
Just to clarify, you know, the students who went to adult ed or job corps are students who we know left and are no longer in school. The ones who have moved, we know that they moved to other schools, just based on registration paperwork.
Oh, so you have the paperwork. That's basically my question. So this, the idea that was floating around that kids disappeared or something, that's not accurate.
No. We know, and here's the thing, like, as Ralph said, it's a small group of students. You know, I know, like, I went over individual students with Ralph to look at, you know, what we have to provide that information in this forum, I think is potentially a violation of privacy.
Yes.
I would be happy to have that conversation.
No, not necessary.
So that's kind of why we presented it that way.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. I'll turn this over to you, Scott.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Ms. Fuller, if you could just convey to Richard, congratulations on the Norwalk High girls basketball team. So, even though I'm a senator at heart, I was totally rooting for the Bears on Saturday. I know it's a small town like that, which is great.
Scott, before you go on, people were talking while you were kind of answering that question for Dr. Kimmel. But could you just, I know you don't want to reveal anyone's identity, but I think the answer you said is of all these 17 students, they're all accounted for. You know where they are.
Yes, yes.
And maybe a couple are not in school currently, or have been suspended, I guess.
Yes.
A couple have got jobs. I mean, it's a mix.
Job corps,
we know
adult
where
ed.
they are.
We do.
And other than being suspended, no one's, dropped out of school.
Not that I know of.
Okay, I think that's
okay.
Important. That's important to recognize. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak relatively briefly because I'd like to turn it over to some important people. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about some really important work going on at Brian McMahon High School. When we were notified that NPA, Norwalk Pathways Academy, was going to be closing, the team at McMahon started thinking really carefully about what can we do to provide for the students who are going to be coming back from NPA, but also, to be perfectly honest, a group of students who were, after a year or 2 years at Brian McMahon High School, had struggled to earn credits, to attend on a regular basis. By any measure of what it is to be successful in high school, there were a lot of challenges. And we, as a team, kind of put our thinking hats on and said, what can we do for students to help them? Because, Steph Peckham, who's one of the teachers will hear from in a minute, made this great comment earlier in the year. She said, we're going to build the ship as we're flying it, and I think that's, build the plane as we're flying it is the actual, and ships don't fly. But then we started thinking about it, and we thought it was a really beautiful metaphor, because I think in a lot of cases when students start to struggle in high school, people write them off, and it almost seems like, to get students re-engaged when they've disengaged to that extent can seem an impossible task. And I think that what we are trying to do, and it's a rapid prototype, right? We came up with something that we thought was our, the best idea at the time, but realized that over time that there are some things that we need to work on and do differently and tweak. So in a rapid prototype model, you do your best effort, and then you have to tweak it as you go, which is what we're doing. So I'm not going to paint a picture of perfection. It's far from that. There are some warts, but there's things that we're working on. And I think most importantly, what we were able to do is identify a group of really dedicated teachers who are behind me and guidance counselors, and who recognize that this is a group of students who, in the typical setting, struggled and to create I would say a soft landing spot for students who maybe felt there was no place for them in high school, where we could nurture and change pacing a little bit to ensure success for students. So again, the teachers who are here, I'm going to turn it over to them so they can kind of review some of the things that are going on in the iLab, but then also to hear the voices of students who are in the iLab. Some of them are students who were at MPA last year, some are students who were at McMahon last year, and I think that their voices are also incredibly important beyond the data, because it speaks to the actuality of what they're experiencing in iLab. So I'll turn it over at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I finally know what the I stands for.
Our mission was to create a safe... I'm Jesse Wagenberg. I'm the math teacher in the McMahon Innovation Lab. We did put our heads together this summer and try and come up with a program that we thought would really be the best for our students. We were trying to create a safe environment where diverse learning styles and learning needs could be addressed in an appropriately differentiated and individualized way. And we knew we were working with students that had not succeeded in traditional academic settings, and we really tried to build something that would allow them to re-engage and really reevaluate their meaning-making process and buy into the academic setting again.
I'm Sarah Molinelli. I teach the English class. This is just a typical schedule. So we have an A and B day rotation. The first block and the fourth block, students are outside of the iLab, typically in health, world language, art, or business. And each day, both A and B, they are in the iLab for second and third blocks. So one day, A day is social studies and science, and B day is math and English.
Just to clarify, that's a 3-hour block every day where there can be flexible groupings of students. There's 2 teachers together, and the whole idea is to integrate, you know, math, English, social studies, and science. So there's some tie-in to what they're all doing.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Peckham. I'm the health and physical education teacher. I'm going to talk a little bit about the data that we've been collecting since the beginning of the year. We began the school year with 22 10th and 11th graders. 1 student enrolled in December of 2018. 6 of the students that are currently in the iLab are from the NPA program. 17 students were enrolled at McMahon for 17 of the students were McMahon kids from last year. We currently have 17 of them as of March 19th. 6 teachers and a dedicated counselor, 1 English, 1 math, 1 social studies, 1 science, 1 health, and 1 special education. So in terms of credit, our third year students coming into this year had 9.7 credits. Our second year students had an average of 3.4 credits. And for this year, they have an average of 6.92 potential credits. And all of the data that we collected or that we're presenting to you tonight comes from the 16 that the 16 that were enrolled when we collected the data. The average GPA for the students for last year, the 17-18 school year, was 0.97, and the average GPA for the first semester of 18-19 school year was a 2.2. And that didn't just include the time that they were in with us in the iLab, that also included the other classes that they were enrolled in. 5 of them have achieved honors status, 4 of them achieved high honors. 2 students participated on the indoor track team this past winter. 3 students are participating on the outdoor track team, and 3 students will be participating on the football team this upcoming fall.
How many teams did they participate on in prior years?
None. Absolutely none. None of these kids were eligible to participate in sports until this year, and it's been a very big achievement for a lot of them. It's been like a game changer for them to be able to be doing this within the school, and it has really, they'll talk about it when they speak to you. Is this on? Okay. So we wanted to tell you about their absences and tardies. So they averaged 29 absences last year between the 16 of them, and then this year they've averaged so far only about 9. Tardies last year, on average, they were 26 tardies for the year, and as of this year so far, we're only up to 14 tardies.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
that? For 17-18 to average 29, what was the range?
It was
pretty high.
Now, what's,
I
are there
don't
certain
have the
limits in
data in front of
Connecticut?
me.
Are there certain requirements in Connecticut when you reach a certain point?
I mean, I guess I don't know, like, what was the range of absences for them? I mean, we had kids that had been expelled. So, in that terms, we had a kid that had 84 absences, you know, because of his expulsion rate. So it really was like, I think our lowest was 4, and our highest was the 84. I don't think that count, does that count when they were expelled for absences? Yeah, so.
Is there any kind of requirements on the part of the school for the kid who's expelled to ensure that the kid gets some type of instruction?
Yes, the expelled students go to our full-time program for expelled students. So they are in an alternative education program by law until they are able legally to re-enter the school.
And that's referring to last year.
Yeah,
Of course, I know that, I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
We should also point out here there's a very big distinction between absent and tardy. We have a high rate of tardiness at both high schools for all students due to our early start time of 7:30. And we have many students who cannot reasonably get there and start a class at 7:30 in the morning. So, as you know, that's something we're attempting to address through another forum and effort, and I'm looking forward to you receiving the recommendations of the Start Time Committee sometime in May.
Hi, I'm Amanda Meyerson, and I'm the special education teacher that works with the program. We also looked at the number of ISS and OSS total days served. So in 2017, 2018, the total number of ISS was 67, and then this year so far ISS has been 17, and then last year the number of OSS total days served was 59, and then this year so far there's been 35.
Hi, I'm Amy Kahn. I'm the science teacher.
I just wanted to clarify for anybody who is sitting and who didn't know the abbreviations that's in school and out of school suspensions, in case anybody didn't know.
So in terms of going forward for the 1920 school year, things we're looking for is just increased social work and counseling help with that, special education support, and then for the 4th block of the day to have some kind of school to career program for the kids to go to.
Yeah, hi, I'm Morgan Thompson, the history teacher of the program. I'm here to introduce some of the students that are going to share their responses to the board. We have a few here.
Hi, my name is Jefferson Duran. I am a part of the iLab. Last year, school was not for me. I hated it. Work was hard for me, and I didn't get the help I needed. Now that I'm in the iLab, everything is different. I get lots of help if needed. If I'm frustrated, I can step outside for a moment, catch a breath, catch a breather, and relax. I couldn't really do that last year. I would get kicked out, being ISS, but now everything changed. I'm an athlete. I do track, and I'm playing football next year.
Hi, my name's Yamil Alexander. I'm a former student at MPA. MPA changed my life in many ways. For one, it showed me that you're responsible for your choices, and it showed me reality. It showed me how to act mature. I learned that it's better to get your work done when it's due, because when you're behind, it's hard to focus and you become lazy. If it wasn't for MPA, I probably wouldn't be in school right now, because when I feel like I have too much pressure, I give up. But now that I'm in iLab, they showed me a lot, that with hard work and dedication, anything can be done. At the beginning of the school year, I did not like McMahon because I was confused on why I was here, because I was confused that why I wasn't at my original high school, Norwalk High. But I let it go. I dealt with it. I started doing my work. I take part in some of the school activities. I'm one of the many few who are who's taking track this year, and I think I'm heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Kevin Felix. Last year I was basically a dropout. I'll go to school and leave first period, or I'll either go to school and get suspended or go ISS, which I will refuse and get sent home. The iLab has changed a lot in me. I had looked at and respect teachers and others more than I have, and they honestly just made me comfortable, which a lot of people I don't like getting comfortable around, and iLab had changed a lot in my life, not only school period. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This year I ended up getting into a little altercation, and I got expelled for 180 days, which I was not proud about, but I had to take the consequence because I did what I did, and I had got sent to I guess the new Briggs or whatever. I'm sorry how I'm talking. The new NAP program, which I did not attend. I attended for 3 days within the 45 days, which I guess the Board of Education realized that was not the school for me. So they helped me getting back in McMahon and changing a lot and giving me a whole 360 turn and giving me another chance, which I wanted with the iLab, and I'm thankful for being here and at the iLab. I'm done.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Bellamy, and I'm a sophomore at Brian McMahon High School. I've been in the iLab since the beginning of the school year. Last year I was getting in trouble skipping, and I had bad grades. Now that I'm in the iLab, I'm doing much better. I think the teachers in the iLab are much more caring, and they support us more.
Hi, my name is Anaja Hamlet, and I was at MPA last year, and I'm currently in the iLab. I have the greatest children out of Brian McMahon High School. I am the president of the iLab, and I can honestly say I see a change in every individual in this program. The remaining kids in the iLab have done everything that they could to stay. Everybody, teachers included, have worked so hard to make a positive image for the iLab kids. Even the kids that aren't able to be with us anymore, I've seen a change in them school-wise. There are charts that showing change in GPA and attendance. From the beginning to the ending of the iLab, changed students physically, emotionally, and mentally. We became a family, and kids feel comfortable here than anywhere else. If you look at the teacher that's involved in the iLab, there's always a smile on their faces because they know they're making a change and have a very big impact on us. We wish we could stay here and with the people that we're comfortable with, but we have to leave and show people what they made of us. That's it.
So I don't know if there are any questions, but that wraps up our formal presentation.
Mike.
Yeah, okay. Heidi?
Okay, great. First of all, I want to thank, firstly, the students coming out. I know how difficult that was for you to come out tonight, how brave you were to come out here and speak to everyone. The positive side is you brushed up on your public speaking skills, right? So that's positive, but really an inspiration to all of us. You know, we really thank you for sharing your stories and coming out here tonight. And we know it's a hard road, but you're really are taking the right steps and the right path. And you're in a fantastic program, and it shows. So thank you so much for coming tonight. In addition to that, thank you, Scott and Dawn and all the teachers and the staff. It's funny, as you came up tonight, I couldn't figure out the teachers and the students because everybody looks so young. So it's kind of hard to figure that out, but I'm thrilled that everybody is working so well together in this program. And you mentioned a good point. It's not only, for us at least, it's not only the academics, but it's the social and emotional component of that as well. And I think you're all striving to really make that work in this program and really be part of Brian McMahon. So thank you so much. And we were waiting for this presentation, not necessarily the students, and we thank you for coming tonight, but we had heard from Norwalk High School, so it was important for us as a board to hear from Brian McMahon to see how well, if there were any hiccups or any issues that were happening, and it was important that you all spoke tonight to let us know how things were going. So thank you.
Julie?
Thank you. So I also want to commend especially the students for coming up tonight and showing the courage you did to talk about your lives and your experiences. I think one of the pieces is oftentimes we're focused on data and we ask to see the data. It's the easiest way to really see trends. But what's important, especially when we're talking about such a small group of students, is that every single data point is a student. And behind every single data point, each student has their own stories. And I think that is a reminder and a refresher to all of us when we focus on the data, is really thinking about that it connects back to each individual student. I also think your stories and the information shared from the staff as well, it's such an important reminder. One of the reasons, the benefits of having the students, the former MK students in the high schools now, the comprehensive high schools, is that we have an opportunity, and you as students have an opportunity to participate in not only the extracurricular activities, but also some of the electives and the higher level coursework that just based on a small population you wouldn't have had access to in an alternative school. So that's really exciting to see how many students are now being able to take advantage of those opportunities, and I hope that continues. I do have one question, and that's for the students. Any of you could respond if you feel willing, is do you need anything else to succeed in school? Is there anything else that we as a board, we as a school system can do to help encourage more of you to continue along the way on track to graduate and succeed either in the workforce or through higher education?
Personally, I feel like the teachers, I would like them like for my senior year, my junior year, I would want them for every year because these are the teachers that I became comfortable with. Most teachers of next year, I have to leave them next year, so I wouldn't be comfortable with probably sitting with another teacher, and I can sit with them, talk to them for hours because we became a family. So that's all.
Thank you. If anyone else, you're welcome to, but.
Good.
No pressure, I didn't mean to put you on the spot so much to have a whole discussion here.
I would like for most of the students, I'm not saying ease down on the consequences, but can you give us at least a chance? I'm not saying you guys haven't given me enough chances, but I would like everyone to get enough chances. Like, say if a straight A student did something wrong and a student that been getting in trouble did something wrong, or reality, somebody's gonna get away and somebody's not. I would want the school and more system to look at it differently, as everybody gets the same chance. Because people would rather help the people that is an A student than the people that's being bad, because that's, I guess, the A students is the better people that people look at. But my point is, I want all the students to get treated the same and give the same consequence or same chance.
Thank you.
I'm not talking for myself. I want to talk for the younger students, the class of 2021, 2022, and et cetera. So when I was at Briggs, at first I thought it wasn't gonna help me out. I thought it was just a waste of time. I'm just here because I made a few mistakes. But it turned out to be a blessing. It helped me mature. It helped me with my, I guess, pride, attendance too. And if you guys were gonna consider opening it back up, I would like the kids who are following in our old footsteps to attend it, so they could see what we went through and how it could change their lives. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
So next on the superintendent's report tonight is the ROTC update. And I guess we'll pause for a second for those people who need to leave.
Did you?
We're honored to have with us tonight Lieutenant Colonel Bob Kalacki and Colonel John Woodward. Ms. Myers is going to provide a little bit of an overview. The board has not had information on the ROTC program, we believe, for about the last 7 or 8 years. So for many board members, this will not be an update, this will be an explanation. And we're very proud to do this since the ROTC in our new high school program of study is one of the specified pathways to graduation that a student may choose. So Dr. Meyer, would you introduce our guests?
Thank you so much. We do start with a public service announcement. I'm sorry. Would the owner of a Porsche license plate number DD4215 please speak to some nice officers outside? Thank you so much. So, we are honored this evening to be able to talk about one of those programs that is a long and strong tradition in Norwalk, dedicated to development of leadership and service in all of our students. I wanted to take just one moment to introduce our instructors because hearing a little bit about their background, I think this is a rare treat for us. First, to see their expertise and also to thank them for their service. Colonel John S. Woodward, who is retired from the United States Air Force. Colonel Woodward is the senior instructor for the Air Force Junior ROTC program at Norwalk High School. He was the air attaché in Norway, advising the American ambassador and senior Norwegian and American civilian military leaders on defense-related issues of common interest. His long service, he was also an avid student of international affairs and foreign language. He is fluent in Norwegian and has studied Russian, German, Spanish, and Arabic. Colonel Woodward is command pilot with most of his hours in a single-seat fighter and a distinguished undergraduate pilot training, F-15 training, and the F-5 Fighter Weapons School. Not something I could put on my resume, right? Those are incredible credentials. In addition, our Lieutenant Colonel Bob Kalacki, retired United States Marine Corps. He is our senior naval science instructor at the Brian McMahon Naval JROTC. Prior to joining us, he was commissioned a second lieutenant in 1985, becoming the third consecutive generation in his family to become a Marine. He served the next 20 years on active duty as an infantry officer, which in civilian terms is synonymous with being a player coach in combat and contingency operations. We might need him at a cabinet meeting. I don't know. His operational and combat deployments included Okinawa, Korea, Panama, 2-month afloat deployments in the Mediterranean, Middle East, Afghanistan, Haiti, and Iraq, 26 countries total. Lieutenant Colonel Kalaki is the recipient of a variety of personal awards and unit citations, including 2 Bronze Stars, with one having a Combat Valor Distinguishing Device and 2 Navy Unit Commendations. I think you can see from just a little bit of their background the kind of expertise they bring to our esteemed program, and I'm going to turn it over to them to tell you more about JROTC.
Good evening, everybody. I will keep my remarks extremely brief. I know it's been a long evening. I want to give the cadets really the chance to talk. But just briefly, I did understand that maybe some of you are not entirely familiar with what junior ROTC is, so I want to just cover that, touch on that for a minute. I always find it necessary first when I talk about what junior ROTC is to say what it isn't. What it is not is a recruiting program. I have to tell the kids that, I have to tell parents that all the time so everyone understands, because that's a common misconception. We have absolutely no recruiting goal. I don't care if I have one of my cadets that goes into the armed forces. That's not the purpose of the program. The purpose of the program is leadership, citizenship, building better, more successful citizens. And I've found, I've been involved in ROTC and junior ROTC for quite some time. And I've found that I've had a remarkable run of a mix of students who all benefit greatly from this kind of a program. Valedictorians, athletes, drama students, musicians, everybody mixing together. This is something that they rarely get anywhere else, is the opportunity, the actual, maybe they get forced even to get together, be in teams, and working and playing with people that they wouldn't normally socialize with. Each service has some flexibility to implement a junior ROTC the way they see fit, under the overall umbrella of what I told you was the goal of ROTC. Each school district applies for a junior ROTC program from whatever service they're interested in, and so obviously at some point Norwalk applied for these 2 programs and was lucky to get 2 of them in the same district. We, in both programs, talking with Lieutenant Colonel Kalaki, I've seen that we both have a very big focus on community service as the vehicle that we can use. First of all, of course, it builds wonderful citizenship habits for these kids to spend time serving their community. On top of that, it gives them hands-on leadership experience, teamwork experience, and of course that record of service, a record of service and leadership that they can take to job applications, college applications, and scholarship applications that's second to none. I've had kids going off to name brand institutions and big name scholarships out of these programs. I'm a big believer. I did this program for some time out west in Oregon before I came here, and I'm doing it here. Love it, by the way. My wife loves it here too. We came here and we're doing this because we believe in this program so much. So let me just stop there, and I want to pass on to a couple of my cadet leaders first, and then we'll turn it over to the Navy Junior ROTC.
Hi, my name is Jessica Alvarenga. I am a senior at Norwalk High School. I have been in junior ROTC for 4 years, and my rank currently is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Alvarenga. Junior ROTC has taught me a lot and has given me many opportunities. The biggest opportunity I've had is to be squadron commander. So basically, I oversee how the program's going, and I help a lot of cadets coming in, and then as well as we have our second ELL. It's called ELL. So like I'm bilingual, so I help them in class, and it's a really great program. And then we also do like an ambassador program where we help out like new students to the building, so we show them around, and then especially if you're bilingual, then that helps a lot too. The reason why I got into junior ROTC was when I was in 8th grade, I attended Nathan Hale, and there was always a cadet that would always go and help us with our homework and all that in after-school activities. And he would always talk about, oh, how great junior ROTC is, how I should join, and how all these opportunities are going, and how he does a lot of volunteering. And I've always been a really big person of volunteering. I've volunteered a lot, like throughout Norwalk. So like I volunteer at the Children's Museum at Stepping Stone. I also volunteer a lot at my church. And then, so he talked about that, and I was like, oh, that sounds like the perfect program for me. So yeah, being in junior ROTC, like the 4 years, I have met so much great people. I have improved a lot on my communication skills. I feel like if this were to happen 4 years ago, I would not be able to be up here. And then as well as like helping out the community. So like going to certain events and just talking to people, you know, and just meeting new people, and just being able to actually talk to them without, yeah. So my future plans, I plan to go to NCC for 2 years and then transferring to do childhood education. And yeah.
Hi, my name is Ariana Goodwin. I'm a junior at Norwalk High School, and I've been in the program for 3 years so far. I do plan to go back next year too. And so I really love the ROTC program. The reason I started is because my older brother, he was actually in the ROTC program also. In 8th grade, he invited me to one of the award events, and I just loved hearing them talk about each other like such a family, and how amazing it was, and all the accomplishments that you could do there. So when I entered high school, you know, I joined ROTC, and a lot of opportunities opened up to become a leader, to learn confidence, and to just excel and outside of ROTC also. On top of that, like, we learned a lot about like life after high school, including like investments, taxes, just a lot of things that you don't learn in other classes. And yeah.
Some of our like service projects, what we've done is the American Legion cleanup, the fall cleanup that we attend every year, and then the campus cleanup as well. And then we also do our 9/11 ceremony at Norwalk High School, the Memorial Day Parade in which we march in, and
So on top of doing a lot of service events, we also get to do a lot of teamwork. We all work together. Like, there might be a corps commander and vice corps commander, but we all work as a team. We all report to each other, work together, do projects together, and just get along. I've met a lot of amazing people, like Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Varinga said, and like she said, a lot of good communication skills that we will definitely need later in life, like speaking at this event today, and also a great accomplishment is how we have an inspection every 3 years. And, you know, last year I actually got to lead the 30 drill commands, which was a big accomplishment, and we got a compliment on that, which is just an example of something good that you can do that just makes you feel good and want to come back next year.
Hey folks, how are you? I'm Bob Kalaki. Nice to see everybody. One of the key things to a JRTC program is the support we receive. And I'm certainly not correcting the superintendent, but I've been doing this for 14 years, and Dr. Myers, this is actually the first time in 14 years we've actually presented to the Board of Education.
14.
So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Appreciate the operational support for, you're going to hear a plethora of activities that take place, that from Dr. Costanzo, the superintendent, mayor, and a lot of the elected officials that support us, and ultimately the Board of Ed. So you're going to hear, when you hear our cadets talk about the wide variety of activities, none of that takes place if we don't get that support and the things that go with that. So I want to thank you for that. And last, I want to thank Principal Scott Hurwitz in that he gives us the flexibility to kind of spread our wings, but he also reminds everybody what the standards are. And that's important. So the program, the unit, I'm sure just like Colonel Woodward, we feel beholden to our school and to the district to set that type of example at all times. Junior ROTC program is a federally funded program. As long as we're in DOD compliance and we get, as stated, we get inspected. We serve 2 masters, certainly Newark Public Schools, but the Department of Defense, through that federal contract, make sure we're in compliance with that, and that's pretty much standard fare for both of our programs. So and that's never been an issue, nor will it be one. In particular for McMahon, I think as the superintendent stated, working with Tom Such and some of the career pathways, we're going to be integrating our JRTC program into the IB career program. So we're paralleling the efforts of Tom Such, what they're doing for the Marine Academy and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, we actually may have some mutually conducive STEM opportunities where we're able to get some submersibles for free, and we can use that with them. So that's a kind of a win-win situation. The last thing I just want to do is just we're going to turn it over to the cadets. All 3 of these cadets are juniors. They're all active participants of everything they're going to brief you on. So the cadets you're going to see here today bore the benefit of that as well as the support. All of them are bilingual. One of them happens to be, she's attempting to be trilingual with Chinese, and she plays a little piano. Another one of the young ladies is finishing up or transitioning from a lifetime of ballet. And the last cadet is a football player, and I'll let you figure out who that is. These students, in my opinion, and by the way, we're neighbors with the iLab, so that's a part of our family. So they're right across the street from us, and we interface with them. So, part of that Brian McMahon High School family. But in my opinion, these cadets, because of the efforts that they put into the program, Colonel Woodward and I are merely the stewards of the program. They are examples of the best, some of the best that Newark Public Schools has to offer. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our 3 cadets in our command element.
Hello, so my name is Cadet Nicole Perez. I am Brian McMahon High School's NJRTC commanding officer. And so basically what I'm going to tell you about is some of our strengths. So our program's strength is that we're peer leadership and character development. Our unit is run fully by cadets. So us 3, we're actually the top 3 officers in our unit. And so basically, all our unit activities are extracurricular and they are all voluntary. So some of those include these things that happen on every year. So the very first event that we have new cadets come into is Cadet Orientation. This is bringing cadets that are about to join our unit, and we're explaining to them how they're supposed to wear the uniform, teaching them a little bit of drill, and explaining to them what the program is really about, and telling them that it's not a recruiting program, of course. The very next thing after that, that's also a really big event for all of us, is basic leadership training. This is a 3-day program that takes place in the beginning of the school year. This is open for freshmen and sophomores, basically. And another major thing that we have that happens every summer is a 2-week military training program that is called Leadership Academy. This is a bit more of like our instructors, like Lieutenant Colonel Kalaki and our NSI, who's Chief Pasco. They select us, basically these are the people that are going to be running the unit within the next few years. So a little bit more about the unit. We participate in 3 competitive drill meets every year. We compete in academics, we compete in marching, and we compete in physical activity. So we go to 3 of those meets every single year. We also conduct 2 field trips every year.
One is a one-day trip to a submarine base. This takes us out of school. We're actually going to Groton, Connecticut within the next 2 weeks. And the next one is where some of us go to the USS Massachusetts battleship, and we actually get to spend a night on the battleship there, so we can get like a more of an experience. Like if some of us are interested in the military, we can definitely do that and like kind of learn a little bit about it beforehand. So in the spring and in the fall, we also participate in this thing called Orienteering Competitions. It takes many practices beforehand to be able to go to one of these things. This is where we teach cadets and we learn ourselves a little bit more about how to read a map, how to use a compass, and basically how to navigate within an unknown environment, basically. So that's what we compete in, to like see who can run the quickest. All these events help cadets to work as a team, and it helps all of us to establish connections while learning outside of our comfort zones. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cadet Eileen Perez. I'm the executive officer and the chief of staff for our cadet administrative, operational, logistics, and public affair functions. The second greatest strength is our community engagement via our community service and school support hours. Last year, we conducted 3,186 community service hours, and this year we are at 2,818 hours and climbing. These events consist of monthly Veterans Flag Ceremony events, Norwalk City events, Veterans and Memorial Day, tree lighting ceremony, and support to our school bands competition, STEM fair as examples. Each approved event requires cadet in charge liaison with event sponsor, and then cadet planning, event execution, and peer supervision and documentation of support hours into our database with an after-action report. Our focus is service to others, so thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Diego Cordero, and I'm the unit's company chief. And my main focus is twofold: monitoring cadet unit morale and ensuring that our cadet commander's guidance is carried out throughout the unit. While our program is not about military recruitment, those cadets interested in ROTC scholarships and admission to a service academy benefit greatly by being in the JROTC program. In the past 14 years, our JROTC program has been awarded $2,200,000 in military college scholarships, with 2 U.S. Naval Academy appointments and 6 ROTC scholarships with the Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps. A number of our cadets have also benefited from free in-state tuition with their work with the Connecticut National Guard. And lastly, I'd just like to thank the Board of Education for giving me the opportunity to present our Senator program to the board and to the Norwalk community.
Board members?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
During the school day, do you have allocated periods of time that you devote to ROTC, or is it all outside of school hours?
All right, so we have an ROTC class that's like, basically it's an extracurricular activity. So that takes up one class period, but sometimes we do have ROTC pullouts for certain events. We have an annual inspection, which is an AMI. So that takes up about half of the day. So that's one thing that we do in school. One thing that we do after school, we do a lot of things after school. We have a lot of drill practice to prepare for the meets that I was telling you about before. We have orienteering practice in the fall more than anything to learn how to orienteer and like know how to read a compass before we throw you out in the woods.
Just one thing, I think in answer to your question, it's a year-long elective, so it is a scheduled class. All the other activities we're talking about are extracurricular, after school, not required, but provided additional benefits. So one of the nice things about GRTC being a year-long elective is when you talk about academic, social, and civic expectations, some of the social and civic expectations can be very difficult in a core course. you know, if you're teaching math, not that it doesn't apply, but so Colonel Woodward and I are able to leverage a lot more focus and emphasis on the social and civic expectations for Norwalk public school students than, say, perhaps maybe a math teacher could. That's trying to, you know, get from point A to point B on that. Okay. But it's a regularly scheduled class, elective class, year long for 4 years.
Colonel, maybe just explain, did your son, did he do it?
He did.
Mike?
He didn't do junior ROTC, but he
did it in college.
College ROTC and became a Navy carrier pilot.
College ROTC is similar. I ran the college ROTC program at Oklahoma State before I started the junior ROTC. The difference is that college ROTC is focused toward commissioning officers. Junior ROTC, similar in that it is there are classes. The Air Force program, for example, has science of flight class, astronomy, global cultural studies. So we do classes during the day, but a big part of it, I like to say the program really is a mix of a class and a club, because I think we both have a big focus on a lot of what happens outside the classroom too. That's a big part of what we encourage them to do, even though it's optional. These are the ones that are jumping in and doing all those things and really getting the most out of the program.
And I think one thing maybe wasn't mentioned, but these are is a for credit class. I mean, it's a transcript class that you take, and if I recall, the textbooks are provided by the Department of Defense.
As a matter of fact, for a Norwalk public school student, with the exception of half of relatively half of the pay for the teachers, so theoretically, Norwalk public schools gets 2 teachers for the price of 1. There's no cost in Norwalk public schools. The books, the computers, operational maintenance funds, equipment, uniforms, alterations, all that is paid by federal funding.
Okay. Mr. Muir.
I don't have a question, but I did want to say thank you to the cadets for the thousands of hours of service to our community. That number really startled me.
You know, these kids are even at convocation. They're, I mean, a million.
I just saw some at the STEM fair last Saturday, which is great.
Can I ask the cadets, or any of you thinking of going into ROTC or into military service potentially after you graduate from here?
All right, so, hi.
Keep it short.
So, I'm currently looking at a couple of colleges. Every single college that I'm looking at, I kind of need to have a naval ROTC there, because my plan is to commission into the Navy. I'm thinking of going in as an engineer. I'm not quite sure yet, so that's my plan.
I'm actually thinking about enlisting into the Army Reserves right now. And then after I could get like a scholarship for Army ROTC. And if I get one, then that could help me with college tuition. I want to be a dermatologist. So, yeah.
Way to go.
Nice.
I think I mentioned earlier that I joined because I look up to my older brother. He actually entered into the military, and not to be a copycat, but I would like to follow him and also join the military and do great things, like Colonel Woodward and Colonel Kalaki.
Okay.
All right.
I'm also thinking about either enlisting or attempting to go to college on a ROTC scholarship to enter the Marine Corps and become a police officer there.
Wow.
And yes, essentially that's just what I want to do.
Good luck. Ms. Keys.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, and it's really inspiring to hear all your stories. And we won't wait. How many years has it been since?
14.
We won't wait 14, so we'll try to do it more often. But really great career paths, too, that you're all deciding to take, very different. But again, it's inspiring and inspirational for all of us to hear you speak tonight and talk about your goals and what you've been doing. And all those, as Sarah had mentioned, all those thousands of hours of community work. So very admirable. Thank you.
I will just add in, my son did the program with Colonel Kalaki, and it was really cool, actually, the things they did, and really, I mean, I know about it because of that, but the board really hasn't had, and I think unless you have a kid that did do it, or you really wouldn't know about the program. But it's a really neat treasure that I don't think is that
recognized,
that many other schools, right? And Fairfield County.
It's rare. I think there are a total of 10 schools in Connecticut. Which
wow.
Wow.
Quite a lot, actually, for a state like Connecticut.
And we got 2 of them.
I came from Oregon. There were only 4 there. But of course, states like Texas have hundreds. Just one last quick comment. We're formally inspected. In your case, you said every 3 years. Ours is every other year. So I think what we'll do next time we have our big area manager inspection, we'll invite members of the Board of Education. I know the mayor's been there a few other times. We'll do a better job of getting that invitation out. So you can see them in their Sunday's best, and it's pretty impressive to see 116 cadets, in a program doing something, performing in a manner which you're not used to seeing high school students.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I say, when you get that invitation, you really should go, because it's amazing to see the precision, the drilling, the discipline of these young people, and they are receiving an education unlike any other education that they could get anywhere, because it does teach them teamwork, responsibility, teaches them leadership and skills that the average person their age doesn't have. So if you get a chance to go, please go. It's amazing to watch.
Thank you.
And I guess the question, Colonels, is there anything you need from us?
Just keep doing what you're doing. Support us. We appreciate it greatly. Thanks.
So I think we're all grateful to Lieutenant Colonel Kalaki and Colonel Woodward for their service to our country, as well as their service and retirement to the ROTC program. And I think when you meet the cadets, and this has been certainly the case every time I've been in their company, you see that their deportment, the way they conduct themselves, their enthusiasm, their positivity is really a reflection of the officers that they've had the opportunity to work with. So thank you, gentlemen.
And if I could also just mention quickly, the first Sunday of every month, the American Legion honors a deceased veteran, and these young people are out there every first Sunday of the month from March all the way through November. I don't think we do it in December. And they're also involved in a lot of the American Legion things, because Norwalk does so much for veterans, and these young people are right there every step of the way. So thank you.
Okay, boy, regional adult ed is kind of an afterthought after the last several presentations, but I need to just make the board aware of something that we are working on that I think represents the intersection of two sets of events or influences. You are aware, I'm sure, from press reports that Governor Lamont has asked school districts and municipalities to share services to the extent possible, and in doing this, reduce administrative overhead. The concept being that by reducing administrative overhead, one can improve services to students. We have an opportunity coming up that we are exploring along these lines in the area of adult education. So as we look to our program, our district director of many, many years retired at the age of 80 last year. His longtime secretary, also many, many years, also retired. And now we have the two night supervisors running the program on a temporary basis, but they are retiring at the end of this year. And so we would be faced, if we were to simply try to replicate or continue what we're doing, we would be faced for restaffing the entire program. There are also some teachers there and a counselor who are in the same situation. So we are currently under discussion with the Stanford program in terms of a merger that would include Stanford and Norwalk as the bookends, with Westport, New Canaan, Weston, and Darien in between. Stanford is fully administratively staffed at this time, so they would serve as the fiscal agents for the program. There are 4 required elements of adult education. One is the high school diploma program for adults. The second is the English language learner and citizenship program. The third is the GED, which now includes an enhanced GED program. The fourth is the workforce training program. And it's intended in the adult ed program that once you complete either the high school diploma program, the ELL program, or the GED program, that you would go into the workforce program, which is a certificate program that is offered by Norwalk Community College. Dr. Myers, in her discussions with the State Department of Education on this matter, it came to our attention that we have not been offering the workforce training program, which is the certificate program at Norwalk Community College. So our current program has been absent that very critical piece, which is intended. It's intended that an individual get a certain level of education, but then be trained to go into the workforce in some role. Also, the numbers in this program have dwindled. Over the years, we think that that has been due to the fact that it's been held at Bryant McMahon primarily, which is not on a bus line. So we're also looking to change locations, and currently they're under discussion with Norwalk High School as a site, or the Carver Center, or both. Those are currently being explored. Now, this is not an attempt to save money. This is an attempt to improve service. And if we do this on a broader level with the other districts involved as a consortium, we would be able to repurpose some of the money that we are using for administrative costs now to be able to pay for the workforce development program and have the full spectrum of the adult education program. So we are exploring this now under Dr. Myers' leadership. We think we can have a program that, for the same commitment, which is, by the way, a match between a state grant and our local contribution, that we can have a better program that serves more students by combining with Stanford and other school districts. There will also probably be a consortium of other districts around Richfield that will serve as another center, and then a third in Danbury. So the approving authority for this are not the boards of education. It is the State Department of Education. So our application for a consortium goes to the State Department of Education. But I wanted you to be aware of this, and this is the first of a couple of updates that we'll be providing you on this. The State Department evaluates this on the basis of whether or not it will actually improve adult education service in all 4 areas and serve as many students as possible for the resources involved. So we will be pursuing that, and if we are in a position where the State Department of Education will approve this merger, I will be back to you for another report with some more specific details on how this would be handled. Finally, you have in front of you this month, March, is Board of Education Appreciation Month, and you have in front of you, at your place, the notepads and candy bar from CABE and our own famous NPS coffee cup. And a pin. And so, unfortunately, this is all you get for this very difficult, time-consuming volunteer job. But it comes along with the gratitude and thanks of our staff and community. The research on school reform suggests that there is no good school system or improving school system without good governance. And as you view some of the accomplishments of our students, as you did tonight, I hope you feel that you own a good part of the achievement that our students are being recognized for. This could be a very different situation with a dysfunctional school board and one that is not providing clear direction and clear policy. So for all of that, we thank you and hope you enjoy these little tokens of appreciation.
Next year, I'd appreciate if we put money in the budget so I could have some almonds with my candy.
So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my very lengthy report. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adamowski. That was, we covered a lot of ground here. We will now move to actions. So the two parts of actions I'd like to put on consent is the approval of personnel as well as the budget transfers. I know there is a lot of budget transfers there. I don't know if Tom, if you wanted to give we didn't have a finance committee meeting. We weren't able to schedule one in advance of this. I don't know if you want to give a recap on those budget transfers or your call. I'm neutral.
Sure, happy to give a brief recap. There are a fair number of transfers. Many of them really fall into sort of accounting changes. You see some electricity transfers that are really just, we've decided it makes sense to keep track of how much we're spending on electricity by building, because that is information that has to end up being reported to the state anyway, so we're making a budget adjustment for that purpose. You'll also see several transfers in here which represent the decisions of SGCs to allocate some of the holdback money that was related to enrollment. We did have some schools, Tracy being one of them, where enrollment increased compared to what the budget was based on, and therefore we released to those schools where they did have enrollment increases, additional funds based on those enrollment increases. So you'll see in those cases where the source of the funding is coming from a redesign account, generally that's what those transfers relate to. You also have some special ed transfers here, moving some money into contractual services, reflecting just kind of normal change that happens during the course of the year to cover expenses in that area. I guess and then you had some cleanup items in a couple of different departments and different schools related to things like extracurricular salaries for athletic events and so on that have been budgeted under stipends and needed to be paid from a different account. And I think that really hits the major highlights on here. I don't know if there's any specific questions, but I don't want to, obviously, at this hour, spend too long on this. So.
Okay, I think unless there are any questions by board members, then if I could have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Sure. Julie Corbett, seconded by Ms. Keys. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. We will now move on to the next two actions. These are driven by the federal government. I don't know, Tom, if you need to say anything or we should just vote to approve, but this allows us to stay in by approving both of these, I believe this allows us to stay in the National School Lunch Program.
This is actually a separate healthy food certification program that we receive an additional $100,000 by agreeing to abide by the rules of the healthy food certification. So it does place some limitations on things like vending machine sales and so on that have to meet healthy food certification. That's the first item, and then item 4, which goes along with it, is it does provide for exemptions in certain cases. So for after-school activities, and it's detailed here in the backup material, but essentially after-school activities, you know, bake sale type items can be sold if it's associated with a specific school event and so on. So we've elected essentially the option, the exemption option that is the most permissive while still being in compliance with the healthy food certification requirements.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve both of these?
No, I would like them separated.
Okay, yes, sir. Could I have a motion then for item number 3, the approval of the healthy food option implementation? Julie Corbett, seconded by Ms. Keys. Any discussion? All in favor?
I just have a question. I just want to make sure I understand what you said, which is that we're allowed to have bake sales and it's okay. Is that essentially what it's like things can be sold on school grounds that don't fit in with the healthy certification as long as it's...
As long as it meets the certain requirements, but it has to be, one of the requirements, it has to be an event occurring at the, after the end of the regular school day. So you cannot have bake sales during school hours, regular school hours, but if you were having, say, for instance, a weekend event,
right.
And somebody were selling, you know, baked goods there, the PTO was selling baked goods, that would be permissible.
So it's an additional restriction beyond what we're having now?
No, that's the restriction that's been in place. The first item is, in order to receive the additional $100,000, we have to agree to these certain nutrition standards and agree that, you know, we're going to, all of the food that's served on the premises, whether from stores, school stores, vending machines, or cafeterias or fundraising groups, has to meet the healthy food certification. And then the next item on the agenda, item 4, is the exemption that's allowed under, you know, under the federal requirement. This is the most permissive exemption that we can have and still receive the $100,000 of funding under item 3.
I got it. I didn't mean to make an issue. I just wanted to make sure I understood what was happening.
We've had this before. This isn't the first time we're doing it. Okay, so that is for item number 3. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Now, item number 4, the approval of food exemptions pursuant to this healthy food certification. Could I have a motion? Ms. Keys, seconded. Mr. Lemieux. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, okay. That's 5 against. Dr. Kimmel, abstentions. So that's 2, 4, 5, 1, 0 on action number 4. Now is approval of ed specs for the new Columbus school. So if you recall, there were some issues with our initial application with timing issues, and so because of when we applied, we didn't have all our costs, we didn't have some of the land acquisition already completed, so we are now wrapping that into this revised ed specs, and so we will get at the margin little incremental dollars from the state by doing this. So this is our incentive to refile. So it's been approved by the Facilities Committee, it's now coming to the board, and it will be submitted by June 30th. So all in favor, or no, could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Mr. Lyons, seconded by Mr. Lemieux. Any discussion?
I have one question on
Yes.
it. Sorry, and partially this because I haven't been to the facilities meetings, but while I was looking through it, and I may have missed it since it's long, and I was scanning it, is there room somewhere for a garden or something? I know a lot of the Bank Street model focuses on interdisciplinary project learning, but I don't know how it fits in because I know the grounds are usually managed by City Parks and Rec versus the school, so I'm not sure how it plays out.
So on the property, there would be space. I don't remember ever this coming up, but Norwalk Grows, which is an organization, they really wanted to be involved, and they've had discussions with the principal. And I think the idea, and the school is kind of designed, the school's actually, it's built into a hill, so there's multi-layer levels, and there are terraces on at least 2 levels. So I believe the concept was, and we talked to Lisa Lunskoll from Norwalk Rose about having gardens on these exterior levels. So I think that's where, there isn't a dedicated space on land, but that's where.
There's room
Yeah, the
for
concept
it.
is rooftop gardens.
Okay, great. I just, knowing that's a great concept for project-based learning as well, and I know there's a movement in the city to have more school gardens, so thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next set of ed specs. This is for the removal of the last of the asbestos at Rowayton School. This building is our second oldest building after Columbus. It's built in 1940, and in the main hallway, it's all asbestos tile. It's fracturing, and they're using duct tape to keep it from becoming airborne. Obviously, that is not exactly what you want in a school environment, as once it becomes what they call friable, it does become a health hazard. So before it gets to that stage, we are going to gut and remove. The summer school program is going to be, the academic program will be jointly done, was planned anyway with Columbus, which has air conditioning, which Rowayton School does not. And the sports program, Parks and Rec, which has always been very popular, is going to be moved to Brown McMahon. So I think that's all in control.
I'll move it.
Okay, Dr. Kimball moves, seconded by Mr. Lyons. Any discussion?
I have, sorry, one
Yes,
question on this
Julie.
one. Do we know if there are other schools in the city that this is also an issue at? I don't want to curtail the issue at Rowayton.
I'm not aware of anywhere, whereas Bill was here, I'm not aware of any places where it's close to being friable. I know we've been slowly working at removing asbestos or sealing it in all our schools, but Bill, please feel free to contribute.
Sure, thank you for asking the question. Yes, we do have some other schools that are suspect, and I will be making recommendation in the 2021 year. Some schools in particular are Rotc Middle School.
Could you say that again?
Silvermine Elementary School.
Rowayton and Silvermine.
Rotc Middle School, Silvermine Elementary School, and Wolf Pit.
Okay.
So I will be making a recommendations, as I said, and that would mean summer closures of these schools due to the current tile that is popping. We just recently completed our review at Silvermine with OSHA. That came up as a topic. It was a recommendation, but not a mandate. However, we feel it is important to address sooner than later.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
When we discussed this, I don't know, a month or so ago, I was surprised by the use of tape, and Dr. Adamowski said it's an antiquated way of addressing these kinds of problems. I want to know if any of the schools you mentioned, are they using tape?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no.
All right,
So whenever there is a loose tile, we do use tape, and then we wait for a, if there's a large amount of a certain classroom that has come loose, we will abate that one classroom during a spring break or something.
Okay, and there are a number of schools that you mentioned. I just want to make a recommendation. As I've indicated in the past, I've had personal experience with buildings with asbestos, and it's a serious issue, and my belief is you have to address it as soon as possible. I know we're in the midst of a huge facilities upgrade and dealing with all kinds of issues related to that. But even though I'm not a member of the Facilities Committee, I would like to just recommend that as soon as possible, Mike, that your committee can get an overview of where we are.
I believe, Bill, we are required by state law to do an inventory every 5 years. Is that correct?
Every 3 years, we're required to give an update for the asbestos management plan. That was recently done in the entire district. What does that mean? It means identify where it is. It doesn't mean you need to remove it right away. You need to have class training to the custodians to make sure that they are aware of where it is and how to report on it should it become loose. The district was recently completed, and we're in good enough shape for the time being. There were no areas of concern that immediate concern and needing to be abated. However, that is on file with the state, and yes, they do look at that report to say, okay, every 3 years you still have it. Hopefully each time you report it, you have less asbestos because you are managing it. So do we have other schools that are, I mean, I can go on for the next 10 years, each summer close the school. Nathan Hale's another one. So we do have 9x9 asbestos floor tile just about in every school.
We have a plan in place with some price tags to eventually deal with these problems, which we're going to have to deal with. We have to. We're not going to have a choice.
As I said, I'd like to start with Silvermine,
right,
and Rotc and Wolf Pit for the next upcoming capital budgets.
Okay, fair enough. Just in hindsight, on one hand, we spend hours and hours talking about air conditioning, which is important, but we're not going to talk about air conditioning and ignore asbestos problems. We just can't do that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Anybody else? Okay, could I have a motion to approve the ed specs for Columbus School?
No, for,
sorry.
Asbestos.
Asbestos at Rowing School, sorry, I can't keep it straight. Julie, seconded by Mr. Lemieux. Any discussion, all in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. So now the next motion, this is quite straightforward. As you know, Dr. Adamowski's contract is up in July 2020, and we want to begin the process of creating a search committee, and this is pretty standard practice. There's a motion here to approve to designate the Norwalk Board of Education as the Personnel Committee, Search Committee for the executive level appointment candidates for the next superintendent of schools. And this is under Connecticut General Statute 1-200, Section 2. Could I have a motion? So Mr. Lyons, seconded. Ms. Keys, any discussion?
Just point out that this is a fairly standard process by designating the board as an executive search committee. The board itself it can proceed in the process in a confidential manner in compliance with state law. We have already got the staff looking at getting information on search firms that we can retain for this purpose, and I know we've got some money that's in the budget that could be used to pay for the search firm. And the first step will be for us to get in RFPs, do some interviews, pick a search firm, and then go out. And I emailed the board members a bunch of background material today on what we did the last time around. So this is the first step.
I have a question how the board handles RFPs. I know how the council did. What kind of committee goes through the?
The whole board does.
The whole board will do it?
Yep.
Okay, so we will make the decision on the search firm as a board.
Okay. And the previous two times, or maybe it wasn't the last two times.
Well, the second time we just went with Proact again.
Yeah, we interviewed, we got, we put out an RFP, we got proposals, we narrowed it down to 3 firms maybe.
Yeah.
One firm came and presented in person, the other 2 presented by Skype. And we chose one of the firms on, after that. The whole board vetted.
So we'll have this. So the board would have a meeting with either Skype or in-person interviews with the people that we want to consider as finalists, and then the whole board will decide who to pick.
Okay. So all in favor? Unanimous. So we have now approved this. The next is a policy approval of the graduation requirements and GPA. This is policy 6146. Ms. Keys, would you like to review this? I know it's been in the works for a long time.
It exactly has been. Yeah, it's been going on for quite some time, but in good ways. We needed to tweak it. We had a lot of work. We had put it on hold for a while because of PTAC, and now they will be a standalone school, so now we can continue to work on this. I don't want to go into too much detail. We have over many, many months about this GPA policy, but one thing I wanted to mention, we hadn't, originally I did a little checking on this, it was originally adopted back in '85, And then some tweaks in 02, 05, 08, and 14, and here we are in 2019. So a lot of things have changed over the years. A lot of forums, a lot of focus groups were part of this to make sure we can actually have the right policy in place. In addition to that, I wanted to mention that Karen Amaker will be leading a task force. They've been meeting. It'll be comprised of 6 members, Karen, I believe 2 teachers, a counselor, a parent, and a student as well. And they'll be bringing back their findings to our next policy meeting. So I wanted to let everyone know about that. But I personally want to thank the policy committee as well as Frank Costanzo, Dan Sullivan, and Dawn Leeds for really helping out to craft this policy and have us move it forward.
I will say, being a member of the policy committee, it was quite heated and went on for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're at this stage and we're voting on this tonight,
It's a sense of
once and for all.
It's actually a sense of release, or relief, I should say, not release, but relief, to have it go through discussion and then coming back here for action. And I think there's been a lot of hard work with everyone, board members, students, parents, teachers, staff members, to really, again, craft this and to get this moved on. Because I know we had some hardship last summer with what happened, and we wanted to make sure we wanted to be fair and as transparent, as open as possible for this. So I'm happy to say that I'm hoping tonight we can move this forward.
Great. Could I have a motion to approve?
You should move it. You did all the work.
Ms. Keys and Ms. Corbett, also a member of the policy committee. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Well done, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
And gentlemen.
Policy members.
And gentlemen.
And gentlemen.
Okay, well, now also this will be addressed by Ms. Keys. This is approval of the first read of summer school policy 5123 subsection 11. I know we discussed this as well, bless you. Ms. Keys, would you like to review?
Yeah, I might have Dr. Myers speak a little bit about it as well. There was a presentation during our last policy meeting. You know, we're really looking to expand the K through 3 as well as 2, 4 through 5th. So it's K through 3rd and then to expand to 4 through 5th. We also, there's a note in here about intervention in math, and I know we discussed as a policy committee to add that in. So we might need, this is a first read, but I know we discussed adding the math component to that as well. Really, I've always felt students lose valuable instructional time during the summer months, so this will help really our students. The administrators will determine yearly the model as needed. Dr. Myers, do you want to add anything to that? And again, this is the first read, and then it'll be brought back again to our next meeting, our next board meeting.
Just some of the change that we put in there was that the policy was needing to be updated on an annual basis if we changed, added a grade level, changed a cut point. And what we know is we want to continue to look at the data, we want to continue to grow the program. And we also wanted to know that although we are right now working on a program that's literacy-based, that we want to be able to think about math in the future. So the policy now is more generic because it requires us to have a summer program in K-3, but it allows us to have a program beyond that, and it requires an annual presentation to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee of what that summer program will be. So now the policy is a little broader, and we can use the plan on an annual basis to get to the specifics.
So we are going into grade 6 this year, and I believe the other change would be that the 5th graders would also have their summer school at the middle school that they'll be attending. So it'll be 5th and 6th at the middle schools, K-4 continuing at the elementary schools.
Dr. Kimmel?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea the way we did it. As I mentioned, I think at one of the meetings, this is exactly, we change senior tax relief in the council chambers every year, but we don't change the ordinance. We just we plug in different numbers based on our budgetary constraints and what our goals are for that particular time. So this would work. I think I like the expansion to 6th grade and expanding it to the extent possible, but I think what is especially important is a problem we identified last year, or probably before last year, this happened to be my first year on the board here, is that the cuts for qualifying for mandated summer school are much too low. Yep. And that's not only an educational issue, it's a budgetary issue. And I think we're approaching it in a reasonable way. Every year may be a little bit different, but the goal is to constantly to raise the threshold, to ensure that, to maximize the opportunities for kids to be prepared when they get to high school. That's the bottom line, to do the high school work. And I think this is a big step in that direction. So this is a really good way to address this policy.
And I will say, I think it's terrific. When I first joined the board 8 years ago, you know, kids were just getting promoted through the system. And, you know, I remember our CMT scores for some of our sophomores in high school were shocking. And I have to believe that this, as well as NWEA and everything we're doing, is going to prevent this from happening. So, well done. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you very much. And then our last action is to designate April as Autism Awareness Month. We heard Jeff Spar, who was here earlier. This is stating that, you know, the Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize April as National Autism Awareness Month. The autism spectrum disorder and autism are both general terms for a group of complex disorders of brain development. Autism impacts the social communication and behavioral skills of those affected by it. It does not discriminate. It affects all races, ethnicities, and social groups. As more health professionals become proficient in recognizing the signs of autism, more children are being diagnosed as being on the spectrum. In 2018, the CDC determined that approximately 1 in 59 children is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. Most children are still being diagnosed after age 4, though autism can be reliably diagnosed as early as age 2. There's no known single cause, but studies have shown that early diagnosis and intervention lead to significantly improved outcomes. At first glance, some people with autism may appear to have an intellectual disability, sensory processing issues, or problems with hearing or vision. To complicate matters further, these conditions can co-occur with autism. However, it is important to distinguish autism from other conditions, as an accurate and early autism diagnosis can provide the basis for an appropriate educational and treatment program. Early intervention can improve learning, communication, and social skills, as well as underlying brain development. Applied behavior analysis and therapies based on its principles are the most researched and commonly used behavioral interventions for autism. Many children affected by autism also benefit from other interventions such as speech and occupational therapy. A child's autism diagnosis affects every member of the family in different ways. Norwalk families, in partnership with schools, local organizations, and government institutions, play an invaluable role in sharing information and support. NPS and the Board of Ed are proud to support the Light It Up Blue campaign here in Norwalk as part of a national awareness initiative. NPS families and staff are invited to join others in the community on Tuesday, April 2nd at 6 p.m. at the gazebo on the green for a special Light It Up ceremony, which we heard about from Jeff Spar this evening. Elected officials, school administrators, local families, STAR, and more will all be on hand for the event, along with police and fire personnel for the kids. By declaring April as Autism Awareness Month, the Board of Education encourages the community to learn more about recognizing and responding to the signs of autism. Could I have a motion? Sarah Lemieux, seconded Julie Corbett. Any discussion? No. Dr. Kimmel? No?
No, I'm in.
All in favor? All in favor is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Board members, we will now move on to information and reports. Mr. Hamilton, February 2019 monthly financial report.
Okay, you have the February financial report. We are 66% of the way through the fiscal year, 60% of the way through the school year, and essentially we are on track. Budget is on track. We've spent a bit less than 53% of the budget year to date. We will be recording this month additional benefit expenses. The city will be charging the third quarter for health benefits. That will bring that number up a bit. But again, everything is pretty much tracking where we would expect. The wage numbers all look good at this point. Benefit numbers look good. In the professional and technical services, as I've reported in the past, we've got good news to report in terms of the 330 account, which is our other professional and technical services. primarily special education related, is running right now at about 47% of budget expended and about 16% below the same point last year, reflecting the building of the in-house capacity in special education. Probably the most notable item that occurred this past month on the 500 series of accounts, you'll see the 564 account, which is, this is the contra account for the excess cost grant. And there you'll see that we recorded in the month of February, came in February 28th, $3,344,000, which is the initial filing that we made with the state for excess cost, representing approximately 75% of what we anticipate will be the yearly, or the amount we'll collect for the year. So that would put us pretty much right on budget in terms of where we'd expect the end the year there on that grant. As you'll recall, this is the last year, the 18-19 year is the last year that we're incorporating this excess cost grant in the budget as a contra account. Beginning next year, it's budgeted in with all of our other grants in the grants fund. We also have on the same page again, and I've reported on this in the past, in terms of the out-of-district tuition account is running at about 46% of budget, and again about 16% below the same time last year. So again, that reflects the changes that we've made in special education and building of in-house capacity. Again, supplies and materials, nothing significant really to report there. We've spent about 50% of that budget, and finally, equipment and other objects are also running on budget.
Great. Thank you, Tom. We'll start with committee and representative reports. Can we start with Dr. Kimball?
Oh, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met earlier this evening. We had an interesting discussion with Dr. Adamowski and Dr. Myers on the enhanced middle school redesign, which will come to, Dr. Adamowski will report to the board sometime next month on what we plan to do with, what we would like to do with PONUS as a pilot for this, this major tweak in the middle school redesign. Will require a board vote to officially go from STEM to a STEAM school. We also had a good discussion on social and emotional learning pilot. We're going to do it also with PONUS and several elementary schools based on work done at Yale University. We're hoping we can begin to duplicate some of the successes that we had at Tracy. Then a final note on something that wasn't on the agenda. It was basically old business, but I really, and I'm not sure what Julie knew, but for the entire year I couldn't understand the difficulties we've had receiving the science equipment until this evening. And I really want to publicly commend all of the folks who were involved in unpacking and organizing the distribution of the science material. Generally, for those of you who don't know what happened, generally when you order a new science curriculum, the units come in boxes together. It's all there for you. You distribute the boxes. This was not the case with CREC. With the vendor that they hired for all of the schools, it's basically the only thing I could think about is going into a plumbing supply store to fix a faucet and having to go to 10 different spots to buy things. It was coming individually, and we were having to put together the packets, which was a massive undertaking. Yeah. I can't imagine. I've used these packets for many, these units for many, many years. I can't conceive of it happening, and yet we've caught up. And things are on an even keel now. At some point, CREC is going to have to deal with this problem because that's just not fair to school systems to have to go through that, especially early on, because we're going to face the issue of renewal new products, and order them a la carte like that is absurd. It's too much time. So I'd like to just commend everybody who really took care of this.
Okay. Thanks to all. Ms. Keys.
Yes, I'll mention first that our next policy meeting will be on April 2nd. We did discuss Summer Academy, so we had a discussion, and then it was brought tonight for the first read. In addition to that, I had mentioned previously, Karen Amekers has her task force ready for P-TECH, and they will be presenting to the next policy committee on what they've worked on for their own GPA. In addition to that, last night, I went to the delayed start time focus group that was held at Brian McMahon High School. Frank and I were there, Brenda Williams as well. And it was about, probably with many of the committee members and parents, probably about 25, Frank, maybe 25, 30 max, probably close to 25. A lot of questions, lots of concerns, lots of praise. You know, we basically had a roundtable discussion, and Scott was there, Scott Hurwitz. Scott's not here now, but he was also helping to facilitate some of the discussions, and they brought up some concerns and some questions. We're going to take all of that data. I know, Frank, you're going to be working on that with Brenda, and then bringing that to our next delayed start time committee Thursday, which will be happening on Thursday. So as I mentioned during our meeting, and I again wanted to let the public know, you know, we worked on deferring this. You know, we're not doing it now. We have a whole other year to really delve into it and have more focus groups. And I believe a parent had mentioned that we need to do more outreach, which I think was a very good suggestion. So we've had these meetings at Norwalk High School and Brian McMahon and some of our middle schools, and I think our elementary school, 1 or 2 elementary schools, but really getting out to the community and talking about this, because this is huge. Once we make this change, it's really hard to go back, and we want to make sure that we get it right. So I think it's important that we have this allotted time. We have almost a year to really get the word out and talk to people about it and make sure we get it right from the beginning. So I wanted to mention that because I did mention it during our meeting last night, that it's not happening now. We do have that year to really work on it. And again, getting the feedback and getting the word out, but also another parent had mentioned surveys that were going out. I think we had a response back. I believe, Frank, there was 1,100 people that responded back. But we still, again, need to get more people involved in the survey. So Scott, I think, had mentioned, you know, handing it out to students at some point during a class, just so we get more participation, especially during the survey time, because I don't know if we're reaching enough people. But again, it's early in the game on this.
I would just mention, the Hour put out a story tonight during our meeting about that meeting you attended.
Right.
And, you know, Tatiana Flowers and the Hour just can't seem to get certain things right. They kind of acted like this was a done deal. Yeah. And, you know, like it was funded and was going to happen. And I don't know, Brenda, it's too bad they don't have a reporter here currently, but they really need to correct that, if you ask me, because it's really sending a message like we're hoodwinking the public,
right?
Which is we're not. And I wish they had gotten their facts right, but they can't get a lot of facts right. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I think that's why we mentioned it during the meeting and towards the end, that it's not happening right now. We have an extra year, really, not now, but we have it till the following year to really work on this. And it was mentioned last night. Any comment on that, Frank, that you want to?
I would just reiterate that those focus groups are not designed to discuss what we're doing.
Right.
It's how we're doing it.
Right.
So the board is committed to, and is a believer in research.
Right.
That the committee has been reviewing for several months now. Where we need the public's input and support is around the way we roll it out. Everything from design to implementation. So we're sharing with the public transportation models, research, and looking for their input so that it can help to inform implementation.
And I think what was difficult because of the inclement weather, you know, we've had a mild winter, but not during these focus groups for Brian McMahon. So I think this was the 3rd or 4th scheduled date. So we were fortunate to have the group that we had, but unfortunately we had to keep postponing it due to weather. But I think the public feels as if we're not having enough focus groups, but we will. I mean, this particular one took a while because of weather related.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome.
On facilities, we will be having a meeting this coming Monday. The big topic, which is still kind of in the works, is, if you recall, when our original capital plan was approved, we had certain numbers from Silver Petroselli Architects And Bob Barron, the city's finance director at the time, was like, oh, these numbers are incorrect, inaccurate, too high. There's no way it costs this much to do this and that. And so they slashed the numbers. And, you know, we were like, okay, so we accepted them. And then now we've hired professional cost estimators. We've finalized our architectural plans. And guess what? The numbers are coming in exactly as Silver Petroselli originally indicated.
Are you suggesting that on the council I was wrong?
No, I am not. I am not suggesting that at all. But I do suggest that Bob Barron kind of sent us down the wrong path. And
I told you at the time, they said that our numbers were way off or way too high, forced the numbers down, and where are the numbers ending up? Right where we said they should.
Exactly where we started. So we are, you know, we have a pretty, as you know, ambitious plan with ambitious deadlines. And at the same time, we're getting, we get reimbursement from the state anywhere between kind of 20 something and or low 20s to low 30% reimbursement. So we have to honor their timeline, and they have a very strict timeline and deadlines. And if you miss them, you lose a year. And as we're at 115% capacity and kids in old portables and closets and so forth, time is of the essence, and we can't miss these. We can't afford to miss these deadlines. So we have a lot of work underway right now. How we're going to try to revise our plan, and with a budget that the city is willing to live with. And so the first part of that revision we'll hear on Monday night, and we'll be working on that diligently in the coming weeks. The PONUS project, ground's been broken. Things are moving along very well there. If you recall, there are some neighbors, and we had our meeting with the neighbors. There was a lot of complaining about flooding. We haven't even started the project yet. As I understand it from the city side, our project, was not meant to exacerbate and was not going to, but because there's a lot of clay and so forth, we're going to have to expand the water retention system we had originally designed. So not a big deal, but we're doing what we need to do. At Columbus at Ely, tonight we just approved revised ed specs. One of the things the state required is for us to do an archaeological study. We haven't been able to do that because the ground's been pretty frozen, but the archaeologist is coming next week, I believe, and there are apparently some minor Indian artifacts, arrowheads and so forth, have been found on the property by a neighbor. So we'll see what this archaeologist comes up with. There is a Norwalk Facilities Construction Commission meeting on Thursday night, which I'll be attending as part of our whole process. So that's on facilities. On food service, the lead food team is looking at a bunch of options. You'll be hearing more about that down the road. And then an effort that's near and dear to some of us is recycling. We've had varying efforts in our schools. None has really been sustainable because it was either dependent on a very involved teacher or parent, student. I know I was involved in a bunch of efforts over the years, and none of the efforts I've been in have been sustained. But now there is a team called the Green Team, which is trying to come up with a model that is replicable. And so they're starting on April 1 at Rowayton School with not only recycling, but they're going to do composting with a service, so they won't be composting on the school site, which I'm sure will make Bill very happy. This will be removed, but they will really, the food stream, I think there are going to be 6 options in the cafeteria. Each grade is going to have a series of ambassadors. We'll see how it works. Hopefully it becomes a model that we can then copy at other schools. And that's it.
That's awesome.
SPED ad hoc?
So we met on the 28th of February, and we talked about a lot of things, but the most involved one was a redacted update of the state complaint and how, where we are in that process and how we're reflecting on our practices as a result of the process. And we also talked about Project Search and the NEST program and plans for transitioning from consultants. And we began a discussion of support for siblings and families of students with special needs. And also the CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, had their first organizational meeting tonight. And next meeting, they're going to vote on their bylaws. And as far as I know, morale is good around that effort to engage parents and collaborate between parents and educators. And we're meeting this Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Mr. Lyons.
Okay, negotiations committee is cranking back up into action now after that nice hiatus. We've handled both of the grievances filed by Dr. Moore, which are now going up to arbitration. We have an NFEP grievance that we're in the process of scheduling. We have begun the negotiations on the technicians and ESG contracts. Really, at this point, just the the bump and run stuff of setting parameters and scheduling meetings, and then we'll also be starting that process with the nurses next month.
Great.
Teachers and administrators in September.
And no rest for the weary.
No rest.
Great.
Ms. Corbett.
Sure. So 2 updates. One, the first is on the Counseling Redesign Committee. And so the first meeting of that committee was in late February. And the committee as a whole received their charge from Dr. Adamowski, and Yvette Gorovich and Principal James Martinez led the meeting. There are 20 members on the entire committee, and that includes school counselors, parents, students, myself, and then administrators as well. There will be approximately six to 10 meetings, depending on what's needed over the next several months, and the next meeting is next week, I believe. And the members of the committee will review the Hanover report, looking at best practices in school counseling and a summary from the American School Counseling Association's national model, including some other research to kind of ground our work in. And then an additional step coming up in the future will be surveys being sent out to counseling staff asking for feedback on the role of school counselors, especially looking at closing the achievement and opportunity gaps while focusing on support and coaching for best practices. And eventually there will be a series of focus groups for some of our school governance councils, community members, and students, and those dates, as soon as we have them, we will share them. One quick summary update on the code of conduct that many of the board members have been providing feedback on. We're making those final revisions based on board member feedback, and we anticipate that it will be signed by all board members who are willing to sign it at the April workshop meeting in 2 weeks. So I will send an update as soon as I have a minute to make those final revisions for you all to review.
Great.
I'm going to come back this way and do that.
Yep. Well, board member announcements.
One quick piece. First of all, I so appreciated hearing from so many students tonight. It was so energizing and gratifying and refreshing to hear from so many students from so many different aspects of programs tonight, and to hear the accomplishments not only on academics, but extracurriculars and athletics. And it truly shows how important that well-rounded education is. That many of us prioritize, and the strategic operating plan also prioritizes as well. So thank you for all of the students who spoke tonight as well. I had the privilege of attending the Invention Convention at Silvermine. Ms. Lemieux and I did last week, and it was a great experience. And you know, through all of it, hearing from the different students and their inventions, some which may have already been on the market, but some were quite creative and I've never seen before. I was actually making my dinner the next night, and I really wished I had had the squircle that one of the students had invented, because I had a piece of square cheese that did not fit. I had to fold up the corners for my chicken burger.
Cheese rounding.
It was basically a cookie cutter, but it was appropriately portioned for bun size, because the student researched bread size, so that you never have to have the cheese hanging off the end of your round bread. And I needed it the next night, so it was great.
Nothing for me. That's good.
You go to Wendy's where the
That's right.
That's right.
Just need the squircle.
There you go.
So I also got to be a judge at the Invention Convention, which was amazing and awesome, and I loved the Squircle, but my favorite invention actually was the helmet that brushes your teeth. That was pretty great. Yeah, without a toothbrush, with a special solution that the child had invented from products, mixing together different products, yeah. And I was really, really invigorated and filled with hope and optimism for the future of science in Norwalk. And also, I went to the STEM fair on Saturday, which was also amazing because my children were there as a team that got to go. And that was also really excellent. And I think the robots that were trying to do their little robot course were my favorite part. And I was supposed to have jury duty tomorrow, but I don't.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
And I have always wanted to do this. Yes.
I missed all this weekend's activities because I was in New York City running the New York City Half Marathon, which I survived. I'm here. And I was a little distressed. I got started doing this, running the Sono Half, and I was a little distressed to see the story of the hour. And I'm sorry the mayor's gone because I did want to talk to him a little bit about whether they're going to approve it or not for next year. But I spoke today to the founder of the Sono Half, who's a Norwalk native, younger guy with 2 young kids going to Norwalk schools, and he was a really great guy, and I really hope we can adjust and address the problems certain people have had with the Sono Half and make sure we have it next fall. And I think we probably have had a board meeting, which I missed, but I did want to mention for a second that Norwalk, the Read Across America program, I read at a couple schools, but in one of the schools I read, there was this really engaging kid who I don't know what, there was something about him that just caught my eye. And so I asked his teacher, I said, how's this kid doing, whatever, is there any chance this kid would benefit from having a mentor? And she's like, oh, this would be great, this is great. So tomorrow, I'm going to the Human Services Council to get approved to become a mentor for this first grade student. So those are my comments.
Great.
Heidi?
Yes, I went to see Mamma Mia. I feel like singing, and
let's have a number, Heidi. Come on.
Ready. But it was really, we talk about this all the time, all the performances at the high schools, middle schools as well, but, they were just inspiring, is all I could say. But it was really, my husband and I went, and he was practically dancing as well. A little bit. So, on a more somber note, I went to, and this is something I've always wanted to do, and I brought my college daughter, Hannah, and my youngest daughter, and my husband went. We went to see a Holocaust survivor, the Norwalk Public Library, this past weekend, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And the gentleman's name is Rotc, and he spoke about his journey. He was from Yugoslavia and what happened, and very inspiring, riveting story, but also very somber, obviously, at the same time. But I wasn't able to speak to him after, but I did speak to Chris Bradley, who organized it, Alex Knopp as well, and it was run through Norwalk Public Library. But as I spoke to them, they said that this gentleman actually speaks at a lot of different schools. So I emailed them saying perhaps we could work something out at one of our high schools to have this gentleman speak. And I've heard that, it was a 2-hour, he had a PowerPoint presentation and spoke, but all eyes were glued on him. And there weren't only adults, but there were also children, many students in the audience as well. And he really relived his story. And there's so few Holocaust survivors left in this world. This gentleman, I think, is in his 80s, and it happened, I believe, when he was maybe 14 or 15 years old. So I'd like to reach out as a Board of Ed member, but speaking to the board and having a gentleman like this come. He's from Long Island. I don't believe there's any fee involved. It's more of just something that you could perhaps, honor him by, paying a very small, minimal amount. But having him speak, I think, would be really important for not only our students to hear, but also our staff as well. So I'd like to work with the administrators and perhaps have him come and speak at one of our high schools. But it really was an awakening for me and really an eye-opening experience. I thought it was important enough to bring my husband and my girls as well to hear it. So I'm hoping that we can work on something like this in our schools.
I was away in Florida.
Try to match that.
trying to do nothing, which I managed to do.
Yay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for that. I need a motion to approve the minutes of February 19th.
What do you think?
Ms. Lemieux, seconded by Ms. Keys. What's that?
Are there two?
Yes, there are. So this is February 19th.
February 19 and March 5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because the March 5 minutes are labeled February 5.
Oh, okay.
That's a
And so, any corrections?
I had several.
Okay, Ms. Corbett?
I have to find them. One's even just I've seen this on several versions of the minutes too, just the page numbers on the bottom are inconsistent. It says like page 12 of 10, page 13 of 10, so something's not going on there.
It's not counting up.
It's not counting correctly. There were several instances, I think on pages 9 and 10, where Dr. Myers' name, it removes the S, and it should be Dr. Myers instead of Dr. Meyer. On, I think on page 12 of 10, it's the CABE review, C-A-B-E, not CAVE audit. I think that's all I had for that one.
Okay, any others?
Yes, I had some comments on the minutes, not particularly corrections in the traditional sense, but I wanted to note on page 4 that of the February 19 minutes that, let's see, Reverend Ingraham is quoted saying, when Mr. Barbas was asked by Nancy Chapman whether he asked or suggested BOE members not to attend the NAAC banquet, he denied doing so. The email, however, showed that Mr. Barbas was not truthful. That statement is false. Mr. Barbas was not asked whether he had sent an email about the NAACP banquet. He was asked whether he had urged people not to go to the Martin Luther King events. And all of the statements accusing Mr. Barbas of lying because of that are false, because Mr. Barbas was asked about MLK events. He honestly answered the question about MLK events. And this is an example of what debaters call a straw man argument, which is you put words into the mouth of somebody they didn't actually say, and then you attack them on that. That's the straw man. The reality is that all these accusations that Mr. Barbas had lied are patently false and demonstrably false. I was copied on that email as well, and the question was asked about MLK Day, not the NAACP. So I just wanted to note for this set of minutes that that accusation against Mr. Barbas was false. And then therefore statements that say we should be appalled that Chairman Barbas would lie about such an important action and bring disgrace upon the Norwalk Public Schools. His deceit clearly demonstrates a lack of integrity, poor character, and egregious failure of leadership is utter balderdash, to use an old term, because the assumption behind that statement is utterly false. There's another false allegation here from Reverend Ingraham, where he says that the NPS Facility Study Committee, chaired by Mr. Barbas, held meetings without public notice from January through September 2016. That allegation is utterly false as well. There was one meeting where, because a notice was published about 10 minutes late by the board secretary that the meeting had to be canceled because it didn't comply with the FOI Act. All of the other meetings were properly noticed and conducted properly, so this statement is also false. Let's see, page 5. There's a statement from Barbara Sumner Harris saying that a large number of African American administrators appear to have been targeted by the current administration of this Board of Education. And she then lists some administrators. You know, obviously we can't get into discussions of individual personnel matters, and I'm not going to do that. But the statement of targeting is provided without any evidence to back it up whatsoever. It's simply an assertion. And I think it's worth noting that whatever the problems of that set of administrators may have been, 11 African American administrators have been advanced and appointed by this board and the administration during this time frame as well, and all of those appointments have to factor into the mix. Then let's say we have Jim Clark's statement. Let's see, the Chrissy Fensor lawsuit revealed claims to be true by women of color served on the board. They were not included in several emails by Mr. Lyons and were referred to in negative terms. And I know there were several other statements about, again, accusing me of lying. This was also a straw man argument. I never at any time made a statement or said that I had included every member of the board in every email I wrote during the time I was on the Board of Education. What I said is that those board members, some of whom had claimed to have been excluded from things like superintendent searches, had not been excluded. They'd received all the documents from ProAct Search, they attended every meeting, they interviewed every candidate, they participated in every executive session, and they voted. Okay? Now, this new principle that if you're a member of a caucus and you don't CC the opposition caucus members on every email, that you're now guilty of some great crime and racism, has got to be the most asinine thing I have ever heard in the entire time I've been involved in Norwalk politics, starting in 1981. Does anybody in this room think that Harry Rilling CCs Doug Hempstead on every email he sends? Or that Bob Duff CCs Len Fasano on every email that he sends?
Nope.
No. Majority and minority caucuses communicate on their own to decide on their own strategy and approach to the things that they're going to vote on. I did exactly the same thing. So if I'm a bad guy for doing it, so's Harry Rilling, and so's Bob Duff, and so's just about every other politician in Norwalk. And by the way, the three individuals who complained about being excluded regularly communicated among themselves. We know, for one thing, that they had a whole series of private meetings with Deputy Superintendent Dodona. We know that because people in the office would let us know when they'd gone in there. In fact, one administrator told me that the three minority board members had practically worn the carpet out going into Mr. Dodona's office for private meetings with him. Now, let me be very clear. I don't think there's anything wrong with them having private meetings with Mr. Dodona. Just as there was nothing wrong with us having private communications among the majority caucus on the board. This is standard operating procedure in all kinds of political organizations, and no criticisms over this behavior get directed at anybody except me. Everybody else does it, no problem. Mike Lyons does it, crime against humanity. And I have to say that, just the...
Here, I'll just give you this sign and you can hold it.
Bad guy. And I don't want to belabor this forever, but the false statements have been made over and over again and gotten into our minutes. This is permeated with falsehoods stated at those meetings, gotten on our tapes. I want to make sure that somebody went on the record, refuting this nonsense. There seems to be a feeling that if I criticize certain individuals for their actions, that is somehow evidence of racial animus. Well, they've criticized me and criticized Mike and criticized other people on this board loudly and publicly for years. I'm wondering, is there ever going to be an end to the list of people that Brenda Penn Williams demands resignations from? And that apparently is perfectly okay. But if Mike or I send a private email around complaining about we're being attacked, again, we're the bad guys.
Now you have the sign.
I've got the sign. So I just wanted to note those things. I don't want to belabor this forever, but I did feel, that something should go into the record establishing what the actual facts are. And, the beauty of this is that these are all facts that can be established. They're public records, there are minutes, there are videotapes of meetings that will show this to be the case. And so I just wanted to make sure these facts get into the minutes of this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Any other additions or corrections?
For the...
No? Okay. I will just say thank you, Mike, for saying that. And, we've seen the press repeat these lies, and they have no problem doing so. And, the journalism, the world of journalism has really tarnished its reputation, and this whole term of fake news that's developed, we can understand right here how that term has developed. And as I told the mayor, it's a two-way street. And, you know, we're not the bad guys, just not like others are not bad guys necessarily, but it's a two-way street. And until people are willing to accept and admit that, well, there will never be any kind of peace between the parties. Could I have a, yes, Bruce?
Just to point out, the press left this meeting at 8:37 before we got to all of the action items, everything good that we're doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're watching on the live stream.
I wouldn't count on it, Julie, but we can hope. Okay, could I have a motion to approve, please? Motion to approve the minutes? Julie, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Julie and Heidi, and all in favor? Okay, that's 5 in favor, no one against, 1 abstention, because I was not at that meeting. And now the minutes of March 5th. Could I have a motion to approve?
Oh, wait, are we in March?
That was February 19th.
That was February.
That was February 19. I think you were here, Julie, I don't.
No, I'm just confused. Okay, so now
It's
we're on March 5th.
5,
But
which
on
is
the.
labeled on each page as
As
February
February
5.
5, okay.
So that needs to be correct.
Got it.
Yeah. So are we talking about corrections?
March 5th.
Well, we need a motion first, then we can have corrections. A motion, Julie, seconded by Ms. Lemieux. Discussion.
First correction is.
First correction is the
February 5
date.
needs to be March
Laura,
5.
got that? The date on that? Any other corrections?
On page 3,
Yeah.
there's just a trail off, and the paragraph Dr. Kimmel stated, it ends with a he.
The last
He,
word.
yeah, the last word can be struck because it doesn't have
Okay.
words.
There's also a stray T in the middle of page 3. Dr. Adamowski stated that some of it was attributed to the change in state rules about T parents. So I assume that's just extraneous.
Okay, any other corrections?
Yep, there was.
Yes, Julie?
On page 5, there was somewhere an extraneous, there was
My
a
birthday's
trailing
coming up, Bruce.
sentence. Following year, they would be separate. Sorry, there was a, somewhere, I lost sentence into 3.
The same problem with Dr. Myers' name occurs
Throughout. Trying to find the other, on page. On, I believe it was on page 8. I can find it. Okay, so the first part is it says Ms. Corbett said that one piece she didn't see was the continuous improvement plan, but will be a factor, so I think it should be, Ms. Corbett said that one piece that Dr. Myers didn't mention, but that will be a factor, comma, is the planned shifts and improvements at the middle schools, like increasing access to arts, music, and foreign languages. And then the last part should read, she asked if the district was looking at traditional demographic breakdowns, including racial, ethnic, and gender, that would allow any systemic issues related to demographics to be monitored and corrected.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor? As corrected? Unanimous. That concludes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Lyon, seconded by Ms. Lemieux. All in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned at 10:20.